Almighty God, who in thy wisdom and goodness has appointed the office of rulers and parliament for the welfare of society and just government of men, we beseech thee to behold with thy abundant favor us thy servants, whom thou hast been pleased to call to the performance of important trust in this land. Let thy blessing descend upon us here in this house assembled. Grant us that we may treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner to promote thy honor and glory, to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of this country and of those whose interests thou hast committed to our charge.
Correction and approval of records of votes and proceedings of the National Assembly sitting of Thursday, 7 September 2023.
Honorable members, the record of votes and proceedings of the National Assembly sitting of Thursday, 7 September 2023 is before us for correction and approval. Can any honorable member please move that the said record of votes and proceedings be considered and approved? Honorable nominated member, Maimouna Sise.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to move the records of votes and proceedings of National Assembly sitting on Thursday, 7th September 2023.
Thank you. Any seconder, honorable members? Honorable member for Joshua.
Thank you. I rise to second the motion.
Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that the record of votes and proceedings of the National Assembly sitting of Thursday, 7th September 2023 be considered and approved. Honorable members, you all have copies of the said record of votes and proceedings. As usual, we go through it page by page, beginning with page 1. Any honorable member who may want to comment or observe may do so now. Page 1. Honorable member for Woodley East.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Speaker. When you come to page 1, number 3, our order paper always says laying of papers and reports. So wherever it is, because I saw it in 2 or 3 places.
It's noted. Number 3, honorable members, laying of papers and reports. Any other observations on page 1? Honorable member for Bakau.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. On page 1, on top, where you have the assembly conveyed 55, conveyed at 55 minutes.
Is it page 1? Which one? Use your microphone.
Where you have conveyed, the assembly conveyed 55 minutes after 10 o'clock. In between conveyed and 55, let's put at. 80 at.
The assembly convened 55. Yeah, at 55 minutes. Yes, let me take a look again. Honorable members, is your record of votes and proceedings. Are you taking the correction or we leave it as it is?
If it's okay with members, we can go ahead. We leave it as it is.
A member for Upper Salem?
Yeah, what he said is also correct, but what is there right now is okay. I think let's leave it as is and move on.
Honorable members, if there are no more observations on page 1, we now move to page 2. Honorable members, page 3. We now move to page 4. Honorable member for Upper Salem.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Speaker. If you look at the second to last paragraph at the bottom of the page, where it says Honorable Alaji S. Dabo, are we together? Member for Brikama North seconded the motion to table the report and participated in the debate. The is mission. Yeah.
Noted, honorable member, second to last paragraph. Member for Brikama North seconded the motion to table the report. Any more corrections on page 4? Honorable member for Lower Body.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, page 4, the record of votes and proceedings as corrected were approved, instead of no where they wrote here was approved.
You make reference to specific area, honorable member.
The record of votes and proceedings, page 4, after paragraph 2, paragraph 1, before laying of papers and report.
Yes.
The records of votes and proceedings as corrected were approved.
Yeah. But I think we have only one record of votes. Yeah, it's only one.
Thank you.
Have many?
Okay, thank you. Honorable Speaker, observation. Page 3.
Who is talking?
Banjul Central.
Pardon?
Banjul Central.
Banjul Central.
Page 3.
You're taking us back?
Yeah. The last paragraph on page 3. The following honorable members were absent without permission. My name was included and I did seek permission.
You took permission from?
From the table office.
How many times have I told you that the table office does not grant permission?
But that's the normal procedure, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable members, page 5. Honorable member for Nyanija.
It's just the spelling for Nyanija, not Nyaniji, but Nyanija. Page 5, Nyanija.
Youth, honorable member.
Number 14, Nyanija is spelled wrongly.
Okay, honorable members. On the following honorable members debated on the report. Number 14 is Honorable Amadou Kamara, member for Nyanija, JA. We now move to page 6 and the last page, honorable members. All right, honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that the record of votes and proceedings of the National Assembly sitting of Thursday, 7th September 2023 be approved with amendments. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no. The ayes have it. Clerk, can we proceed?
Matters of the day, Order 51, by Honorable Suleiman Saha, Member for Central Badibu and Minority Chief Whip.
Honorable members, my office is in receipt of a request made by the Honorable Member for Central Badibu seeking permission under Clause 51(1) and 2 of the Standing Orders to make a statement to the Assembly on the ban of female circumcision in the Gambia. Honorable members, having considered the request of the Honorable Member under the provisions of Standing Orders Clause 51(3)(a), b, c, and d, and 51(5), and noting that the request has satisfied the Standing Orders provisions, I now grant the Honorable Member leave to make his statement to the Assembly. Honorable members, however, I wish to draw the attention of the Honorable members to Clause 51(8) of the Standing Orders, that the time allocated for the matters of the day shall not exceed 3 minutes for honorable members who may wish to make statements, and the time allowed for the matters of the day is 30 minutes. Therefore, honorable members, I also urge honorable members to observe Clause 51(9) of the Standing Orders, which states, no member may intervene during a member's statement under these Standing Orders, and there shall be no questions and no votes shall be taken at the conclusion of the statement or statements. Honorable members, I now call on the Honorable Member for Central Badibu to make his statement to the Assembly. Honorable Member.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, honorable members of the National Assembly, the issue of female circumcision or female genital mutilation is a call for concern. The practice has both cultural and religious dimension and has been practiced since time immemorial, handing down from one generation to another generation. Decades ago, there were activists who launched campaigns against the practice with the support of non-governmental organizations. The advocacy continues to highlight the negative outcomes, but the proponents and those practicing FGM also advance certain advantages until when the former president, Alhaji Yaya Jammeh, made a pronouncement in his hometown, Kanilai, to ban the practice. The pronouncement was followed by an act or enactment of a legislation by this humble assembly to criminalize the act of FGM or female circumcision. Honorable Speaker, the practice exists in secret and no more characterized by cultural display or songs, dance, or traditional dress. The 1997 Constitution clearly spelled out right to practice one's culture and religion. These are enshrined in Chapter 17, subsection 2 and subsection 32. With your permission, I quote, every person in the Gambia, whatever his or her race, color, gender, language, religion, political or other opinion, national or social origin, property, birth, or other status, shall be entitled to the fundamental human rights and freedoms of the individual contained in this chapter, but subject to respect for the rights and freedoms of others and for the public interest. Chapter 32 also spelled out, every person shall be entitled to enjoy, practice, profess, maintain, and promote any culture, language, and tradition, religion, or subject to the terms of this Constitution and to the Constitution, that the rights protected by this section do not impinge on the rights and freedoms of others or the national interest, especially unity. Honorable members, with the above citation, we need dialogue on this matter, rather than arresting our mothers and sisters to be arraigned before the court. This is creating discord among those who practice it as a culture and religion. To my opinion, it should be a matter of choice rather than ban the act because of fundings being received from the West. If you are with the opinion that it affects the health of women, why not support them with materials to promote hygiene and sanitation? Banning the act infringes others' rights and serves as a recipe for violence in our country. This country has a record of stability, and we all need to put hands on deck to revisit the act that criminalizes female circumcision. I thank you all for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member for Central Badibu, for your eloquent statement. Honorable members, we have more than required number of people who want to participate. So in order, wherever we meet the 30-minute deadline, we will just break off to go to another business. Now, may I now invite the Honorable Member for Fonyi Berefet.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you for giving me the floor. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa muslimina wal muslimat. Assalamu alaikum wa zawji wa zawjat. Good morning to all of you. As a Muslim woman, let me say a Muslim woman of the Gambia, I'm ashamed to stand here in this August Assembly of the Gambia to talk about circumcision, to talk about the secret of women, to talk about the Islamophobians, the people who are standing to ban Islamic, the people who are fighting our religion. I am ashamed to come here to talk about this kind of things in this August Assembly. Honorable Speaker, I am speaking with the voice of the people of Fonyi Berefet and Gambia at large. My people said they don't like the idea of banning female genital mutilation. What they want is that let this practice be neutralized. If any tribe want to practice circumcision, you do it. If you don't want to practice it, leave it, you are free. As the way the Gambia was since before 1965. Honorable Speaker, as the way the man who led the matter of the day alluded, that President Jammeh talked something like that, and he banned this, the practice of female genital mutilation at Kanilai. Honorable Speaker, I will tell you loud and clear that the falling down of President Jammeh is even the coalition achieved that goal because of that female genital mutilation. When the man made that announcement, fooled by the woman, by the name, I respect women of the Gambia, even the cleaners in this parliament. I never and ever want to call them by their name. I always call them sister or mommy. And I had to call Aisha Toure by her name, but I must call her name. This woman was the very woman who pushed Jammeh's wife and the Vice President Aisha Toure, Aisha Njai said it, to talk about the banning of female genital mutilation, and they succeeded. When Jammeh pronounced that, the same woman made a U-turn, joined coalition and campaigned against him. When the man stepped down, this woman was succeeded to become the Minister of Trade, and she became the Vice President of the Gambia for 3 years. I expect her to talk about to ban female genital mutilation during her period of being the Vice President.
Okay. Honorable member Fofoni Berefet. Honorable, we have only 3 minutes granted to each member. And honorable members, let's, as much as possible, avoid making names who cannot be represented or talked about here. I now call upon the honorable member for Sami.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor. Thank you very much, the mover, that is Honorable Central Badibu. Honorable Speaker, a law is meant to help citizens. Any law that is disturbing the citizens, I think we should look at it critically, as the mover stated. It should be choice. Whoever wants to do it, you do it. This is why I always used to say, Honorable Speaker, this law was passed in this very house. You have to be very careful. You have to be very, very careful. This is why I always say, let us not rush. Let us not rush. When this technician comes with their plans, you have to scrutinize it properly. You see, the blame is on us. So let us revisit this. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
I now invite the honorable member for Kiang West.
Honorable Speaker, thank you very much. Honorable Speaker, we are speaking on behalf of our people, our electorates, who elected us to come here. And from a thorough consultation, a deep consultation between us and our electorates, particularly at Kia West constituency, 99.9% of the electorates of that constituency disagree with the banning of the female circumcision. And we argue strongly that our mothers do not mutilate, and I want to stress this again, our mothers circumcise. They do not mutilate. So we want this to be clear as it is on the document. Honorable Speaker, as quoted by the honorable member in the matter of the day, that in the said section that he has talked about, freedom of religion and belief and practice of your religion.
Order. Honorable members, honorable nominated member, Keba Lang, I think you standing up to a point of order.
17A.
Pardon?
17A, Honorable Speaker. All members shall enter and leave the chambers with decorum. Decorum does not only apply in the way we comport ourselves, but also in our pronouncements. People who've debated on the topic here, it is really sensitive. Let us be careful what we utter. Let's sanitize our words. Thank you.
Unfortunately, honorable member, that portion of the standing orders does not hold water for this particular case. Honorable member, you can continue.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the ruling. For me, I believe in the Prophet, and then I will always quote on his words. Honorable Speaker, if we are to help our people, there is a way we have to. Coming to the male aspect of it, before the way it was done and the way it is done now is different, because it's been modernized. Before you are taken to the bush, tied to a level where you feel pain and feel everything, it was called a knife. It was modernized because the West wanted it to happen. They come here and teach us the way they want it to be. Why can't we do the same for the female child? Let's teach them in the right way. The way it is more hygiene and more professional than banning it. Where are our human rights activists? Freedom of what? You are free to do what you want. If at all you want to say the girl child is being forced to it, allow up to the age of 18 and ask the child whether she wants to do it or not. But if you want to put a ban to it, if the child wants to do it and at the end of the year, now she can decide on her own to say, I want it, and now it has been banned, how will you practice it? Let's look at it in all aspects. You don't deny it because of you want it to be denied. You want it to come as a law. The former president, yes, made the pronouncement. I'm not here to defend him, or I'm not here to quote for him. But go back and then look at the history. Why was he doing it, or why did he do it? He was somebody who was always trying to fight things. This was what our own people were using to seek for asylum. This is what our own people were doing for what? To look for money to come and establish.
Honorable member, summarize. Your 3 minutes will have gone now. When you were broken up, it started again. So just 130 seconds for you to summarize.
Honorable Speaker, I think it's important. I will support my other colleagues to look at the law properly and then make it in a way that anybody who wants to do it, you are allowed to do it. But let them also teach them in the way that they want it to be, in the way that Islam is telling them to do it, in the way that they feel that it is more hygiene and more helpful than the female child, than banning everything in total. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I now invite the honorable member for Lower Saloon.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor. And again, Honorable Speaker, I must thank the member for Badebu for championing this matter of the day. Honorable Speaker, I also arrived in the conclusion that I also came with the same subject matter, but unfortunately, the member submitted his argument on the 8th, that was on Friday, that I could not present my argument. Honorable Speaker, it's very easy and clear. You can see, so to say, how many members of parliament that are female representing people, they are all against it. And it's the same average of Gambian people who are against it, Honorable Speaker. Even in fact, in their submissions, they said 76% of Gambian people are doing it. Now, out of 100%, how many percent did you get? 24. Honorable Speaker, banning this is not the problem. It's a problem, sorry, Honorable Speaker, because our activists are used to Honorable Speaker, you know, I don't want to use language whereby I'll be pointed to, there will be points of order. Because these activists, they have insulted our mothers and our sisters, Honorable Speaker. When during the facilities we are not much, we are the nursing bus, we are taking care of our females, deliveries, and other things. But we never had these issues like this. Because now they start pumping monies in their accounts. Now they want to use us to gain their profits. We can't do it, Honorable Speaker. We against it. We allow people to do it because he quoted the constitutional right. You are free to perform anything. And we say we are a democratic state. When the president makes an announcement, it's not only female genital mutilation, even gays. But now people are practicing gay and not lesbians. Did we talk about that? Did we ban that? Where are the hypocrisies, number one? Honorable Speakers. Honorable Speaker, here we're going to repeal this law. Go against us. When your pocket is used to go against our women, we're not going to tolerate that. All those so-called activists, Honorable Speaker. We are Muslims and we have to practice it. Me, if I have a daughter, I'll take it. And if in 2018, I take 10 of them. That are my surrounding neighbors and my sisters and my brothers' kids. And I will take them. There's no...
Thank you, Honorable Member. I now invite the Honorable Member for Brikama South.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. First, I want to seize this opportunity to thank Honorable Sao for coming with this wonderful matter of the day, which we all appreciated. Honorable Speaker, I know people that spoke before me alluded about the legislative basis, but I want us to look at the society in which we came from. We came from a society that have norms, we have tradition, we have culture that are deeply rooted. And we have to be very much aware of something that has been a pull factor to this country. That is the peaceful nature of the Gambia, which is very, very important. So we have to look at issues, more especially when you come to the cultural aspect, which before we are born has been existing. Coming out with this issue of prosecuting some of these women has generated a lot of public outcry. And to an extent that people are very much worried. And this can bring in chaos in this country. And that's why we have to be extra careful. And I'm fervently with the view that we have to come out with a private member bill to repeal this. It's very, very important, without which we believe we can have a problem in future. This is very sensitive and is very rooted in our culture and our society. So we have to look at it. Any of us can come out with a private member bill and see how are we going to repeal this thing. There is one thing we have to understand. Even the laws that we promulgate in this National Assembly or in the Gambia derive from the people. And if right now, if you should take this as a motion to the people in a form of referendum, it's going to be unanimously rejected. People are not happy with this, and we have to look at it. Not everything that exists in West is feasible in the Gambia. We have to look at that. Sometimes these are come with conditionality, and that is why we have to work extra hard to make sure that we sustain ourselves. Because if you depend outside West, they bring a lot of conditions that are not realistic. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member for Brikama South. And our last speaker is the Honorable Member for Fonyi Kansala.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I thank the mover of the motion for this wonderful, deliberation. So I believe we are all together, Honorable Speaker, and I also made this very clear that proclamation of the President could adhere to a law in which the Parliament has passed as an act. Secondly, he has proclaimed as an Islamic state. Was it done? Let's ask ourselves. No. He has proclaimed about gay. Was it done? Let's ask ourselves. Why is this FGM an issue? And to correct this point, we are people. The people of the Gambia and that of Fonyi has never practiced FGM. It's borrowed from the West. And we will bury it here in this assembly. We are not here to joke, and we represent the people. When you tamper with your Islamic and cultural aspect, we will repel with all forces. So therefore, I tax myself and all members to come with a private member bill, to police this law outright, immediately to make sure our people are adhered to. That is the only way out. We cannot be surrounded by cheeky dodos in terms of gains of their pockets. Time has elapsed. Honorable Speaker, I had also had a strong activist trying to insinuate the arrest of an imam. I, part and parcel, a student of that imam. I am ready to remove my cap as a parliamentarian, to walk towards the street if any day that imam is arrested. And to clear the matter, you cannot even make proper prayers. Rabbi Sidni Elman. Is this what it said? Rabbi Sidni Elman. This is what the dua is all about. Instead of attacking Imam. We are here, and the forces will stay. We will not compromise with our religion. We will not compromise with our culture, and we will stand tooth and nail to make sure we defend the defenseless. Honorable Speaker, to quote certain references from this. In 1994, the head of Al-Jassi Islamic University declared circumcision obligatory, specific removal of the area in which we are to do as what we are doing. Secondly, in 2009, the National Council of Islamic Affairs of Malaysia declared female circumcision obligatory for Muslim women and limited to what it's supposed to be based on the teaching of the Prophet ﷺ. And again also, in the Islamic Cultural Center of Ireland states that female circumcision is Islamic and not FGM. So we want to put tests to these activists. Where have you borrowed this word? since pre-colonial era.
Thank you very much, honorable members. It's unfortunate we have about 20-something members who want to talk on this issue. We are only able to take 10. So let me thank the mover of the motion, the honorable member for Central Badibu, and of course all honorable members who have participated eloquently on this issue. For those who have not had the opportunity to speak, may include it in may express their opinions during the adjournment debate. But of all, it looks like the motion moved by Central Badibu has nobody who spoke contrary to it so far. I want to thank you all, and now invite the clerk for us to proceed.
Laying of papers and reports. Report of the Finance and Public Accounts Committee on the 2019 Audited Account of Government, Auditor General Report, COVID-19, Response Phase 2, Annual Activity Report, and Audited Financial Statement of Public Agencies, Institutions, Areas, and Municipal Councils, by the Honorable Chairperson of the Committee.
Thank you very much, Clerk. May I now invite the Chairperson of the Committee on Finance and Public Accounts Committee to table their report. Whom do you want to observe? Observe the process. You are either going to observe the clerk so far or myself, but not the process. If the process is not in order, you will go by the standing orders and put a point of order. Of the Committee on Finance and Public Accounts, please table your report.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
At any point, you may make an observation, but then you observe people and what they say at any time. Yes, please continue.
No, you doesn't start.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable members, can you permit me to lay before you the report of the Parliamentary Scrutiny on the 2019 audited accounts of the Government of the Gambia, Auditor General's report on COVID-19 response phase 2, the annual activity reports and audited financial statements of the public agencies and institutions, city, municipal and area councils from the period June 2022 to July 2023. We have the table of contents and the acronyms in the report. From there, the Honorable Chairperson's statement, the National Assembly Standing Committee on Finance and Public Accounts, FPAC, hereby publish the outcome of the public hearings on parliamentary scrutiny and oversight engagements of FPAC between June 2022 and July 2023 that were convened at the National Assembly of the Gambia, the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs, officials of Accountant General's Department, and National Audit Office, Board and Management of Public Institutions and Agencies, as well as mayors, chairpersons, and management of city, municipal, and area councils were summoned to appear before the FPAC for consideration and adoption of their audited accounts and financial statements. The report covers audited financial statement of central government For the year ended 31st December 2019, Auditor General's report and government COVID-19 responses phase 2 and annual activity reports and audited financial statement and management letters of public institutions and agencies covering the period 2018 to 2020, respectively. The sole objective of this statutory exercise is to enhance transparency and accountability with a view to ensuring that the government of the Gambia and all public institutions and agencies are accountable to the Gambian people through their elected representatives. The Standing Committee of the National Assembly on Finance and Public Accounts is determined to do whatever it takes to hold the government and its institutions accountable to the citizens by ensuring that the proper public finance management policies are implemented. It is imperative that, as servants of the people, we will all conform in our actions, words, and attitude to the best financial management practices. The aim of EFPA's engagement is therefore not to witch hunt any individual or institution. It is rather meant to ensure transparency, probity, and openness in all public institutions financed with taxpayers' money. It is equally intended to hold heads of public institutions accountable for their actions or omissions, thereby ensuring that they deliver valuable services to the populace in an effective and efficient manner, signed by the chairperson of the committee, I humble self. Honorable Speaker, acknowledgement, FPAC was supported in all its process and engagement by the Auditor General and officials of National Audit Office, Accountant General, Permanent Secretary, and officials of the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs, officials of Gambia Public Procurement Authority, as well as subject matter specialists in the persons of Mr. Abdullah B. Cham, Dr. Ali Ofal, and Mr. Wiswa A. Kerr. On behalf of the honorable members of FPAC, ECPAC expresses sincere gratitude and appreciations to all individuals and institutions that contributed in diverse ways towards the successful conduct of FPAC deliberations. The support staff of FPAC, especially the Committee Secretariat, deserves special mention. In the same vein, I acknowledge the cooperation of Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs, boards and managements of all the public institutions scrutinized and urge all of them to fully implement the recommendations contained herein. Honorable Speaker, the background pursuant to Section 109 of the 1997 Constitution of the Republic of the Gambia, the Finance and Public Accounts Committee is mandated to scrutinize the accounts of the government of the Gambia as audited by the Auditor General of the Republic of the Gambia. FPA relies on Section 109(2)A and B of the Constitution to execute its function with effectiveness and diligence. Similarly, the committee is mandated by Section 109(3)A, B, and C, as well as Section 110 of the 1997 Constitution, to reprimand or admonish any officer, agency, department, or ministry who or which has been found wanting in execution of their mandate. Honorable Speaker, the Bureau of Committee of Sixth Legislature resolved that the scrutiny of all public accounts shall be the sole prerogative of FPAC, except for 13 other commercial SOEs, whose accounts shall be scrutinized by PEG. This report of FPAC covers the audited accounts and financial statement of the government of the Republic of the Gambia for the year ended 31st December 2019, Auditor General's report on the government COVID-19 response, Phase 2, the annual activity reports and audited financial statements of public agencies, departments, autonomous public institutions, area and municipal councils, and tertiary education institutions, and the methodology that was applied. Methodology employed during this session includes a combination of the following evidence through analysis of activity report and financial statements. The committee reviewed and considered the reports of all institutions within its remit and received expert analysis from the subject matter specialists, Auditor General and Director General of Gambia Public Procurement Authority or their representatives. And public hearings, the committee summoned witnesses from all relevant institutions to a public hearing where they make presentation and respond to questions and concerns regarding the annual activity reports and audited financial statements. All FR sessions were open to the public and the media. The Chapter 1 of the report, the audit of the government COVID-19 response, Phase 2. The introduction. COVID was an unprecedented global public health pandemic with severe health and economic consequences. As the situation unfolds and countries respond to the role of supreme audit institutions became increasingly important in assisting government response process by maintaining public financial management, discipline, and safeguarding the transparency and accountability. Throughout the crisis, the major emphasis of government is on protecting livelihoods and public health. Therefore, auditors are constrained both by the fiscal contact limitations and the need to avoid inhibiting government from response to the pandemic. As a result, key oversight controls may suffer, particularly as public financial management systems are streamlined to be more flexible. The Finance and Public Accounts Committee received a formal presentation of the Phase 2 audit report on the government COVID-19 response with regards to the procurement and distribution of items purchased and relief packages to those working in the tourism industry and the media. Key winners from the Ministries of Finance, Trade, Health, Tourism, Information and Communication Technology, and National Disaster Management Agency, the Gambia Public Procurement Authority, were also invited to provide updates on the compliance of the procurement procedures as required. This report highlights key findings on the audit report and recommendations for the consideration of the plenary. Honorable Speaker, the distribution of food and medical items, payment to frontline workers and quarantine centers, and support to other sectors. The National Disaster Management Agency, the Government of the Gambia through the Ministry of Trade, Industry, Regional Integration and Employment.
Honorable Speaker, observation.
Whom do you want to observe?
Yes, the mover. I thought there is a practice and a good practice I'm seeing here in this.
Honorable Member, you said observation, am I right?
Yes.
He's allowed. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, allow me. I'm seeing a very good practice that is employed by FPAC. That's the Honorable Chairperson's statement. I thought the mover will just read that and allow honorable members to go through the other things without reading verbatim all that is here.
Honorable Member, you are suggesting that he summarizes rather than reading it verbatim. Honorable Member, can you continue?
I think that the Honorable Member is in a haste that after reading the introductory part, when I come to the substance, institution by institutions, that is what I intend to be doing. Okay? The first one that has to do with the National Disaster Management Agency, the agency was invited, and then the scrutiny took place, and in the course of the scrutiny, a total amount of 27 million was paid by the Accountant General's Department as at 1st October in relation to the transportation and distribution processes. In that, the findings and observations that emanated, there were lapses in identification process of households. The names of the places were listed, and also on distributed food items also, we came across certain food items that were not distributed. And then in certain areas, for example, in CRR, we have a total of sugar, 120 bags, 50 kilo, oil, 180 gallons, 20 liters, rice, 4 bags, 50 kilo, and in 50 kilo. Then the storage and security of food items. The auditor also raised concern on the manner in which food items were stored and that led to the destruction of certain food items.
Honorable member, can you please help me through? Where are you?
Page 10.
Page 8.
Page 10.
Page 10.
10 years.
Okay. 10C. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
On the late distribution of food items at a particular region, it is mentioned that there were late distribution of food items. And then in another region, it is also mentioned that certain food stock balances were not distributed after the excise. On conclusion, based on the evidences obtained by the auditors and the lapses that were identified, the committee concluded that the storage and distribution process did not fully comply with the laws and regulations that govern them. And the recommendation that follows suit. The committee recommends that a proper needs assessment, including relevant criteria, will have ensured that the households are carefully selected and only those considered vulnerable are identified to benefit from the support. There should be standard guidelines for the transportation distribution of the food items. The committee further recommends that the Executive Director of the National Disaster Management Agency must account for all the remaining stock balances within 10 days. Records of all items of inventory, including food items kept, should always be made available and presented for audit. And then, fourthly, timely distribution will ensure that vulnerable households access food items on time. On the other point, there is the allowances that are paid to frontline workers and distribution of the medical items outside Greater Banjul. The table below highlighted the distribution of those for Ministry of Health. The table below outlined the distribution process, and the table is here for your purview. On the findings and observation, funding and payment, Government of the Gambia, through relevant stakeholders, Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Health, prepare supplementary bill environments to finance the health sector in response to the COVID-19 emergency at a tune of $750 million. 100 million of this amount, representing 13%, was budgeted for payment of allowances to frontline workers in the fight against COVID-19 pandemic. The streamline of payment, Accountant General's Department made fund transfer to four streams, that's the paying points for onward payment to beneficiaries. The streams are as follows: hospitals, and then the bank transfers, accounts unit, Ministry of Health, and then the sub-treasuries. The category of frontline workers, the ministries stratified the categories personnel involved in the fight against COVID-19. The categorization of disseminated to the regional head directors and the heads of the thematic areas for use in classifying the personnel, and then the categorization is table below. Distribution of medical items. The key finding revealed failure to prepare comprehensive master list and also unpresented payment voucher that amounted to a tune of 1.65 million, and then failure to pay allowances to some personnel in the master list, inaccurate amounts of allowances paid to the frontline workers, and then inventory system and stock cards. The committee concludes that based on the evidence obtained by the auditors, adequate and appropriate evidence was not presented by the Ministry of Health to substantiate the payment of allowance to some frontline workers. These were lapses in the internal control discrepancies noted might not be addressed and funds might be diverted. The lapses in the payment of allowances meant money have been misused. In addition, poor controls around the storage and distribution of medical items increase the risk that items have not been available to treat patients. And recommendations: no payment of allowances should be initiated without comprehensive list of eligible personnel. All payments should be supported with payment voucher, and this should be retained for future audit responses. Payments should not be processed without such a trial in place. The missing payment voucher in respect of the payment of 1.6 million must be produced within 72 hours, failure of which the board controller will reverse the sum. Any personnel identified and included in the attachment list and considered as eligible personnel is entitled to receive the allowance. Payment officers should ensure that monies allocated for specific purposes are only used for the intended purpose. The overpayment of 1.6 million must be recovered from the board controller immediately. Stock cards should be maintained at all health facilities and regular reconciliation conducted between tally cards and fiscal items held. Any differences should be investigated. The procurement and payment to quarantine centers, this total to a tune of 750 million, and out of it 199,719 was spent on procurement and use of quarantine centers and facilities. The table highlighted.
Honorable Member, 199,000. Can you read that? It should be
199 million rather. 979,708. Thank you for the question. And the key findings and observations: no evidence of need assessment was discovered by the audits, and that failure to comply with the procurement process and procedures was also highlighted by the Gambia Procurement Authority. And contracts awarded before the GBV approval was granted was also an issue raised by the auditors. Failure to submit quotations, and that was also an issue, a tune of 193,207,843 was also highlighted by the procurement authorities. Conclusion: based on the evidence submitted by the auditor, there are contract weaknesses, and the auditors did not receive sufficient information and documentation for the Ministry of Health to substantiate the procurement and payment to quarantine centers or facilities. The committee could conclude that the Ministry of Health failed to comply with the public procurement laws and regulations, and therefore recommend procurement should not be carried out without proper needs assessment, as it is an important activity that ensures that the required quarantine centers or facilities are procured and used which help avoid wastage of resources. All proposed contracts for procurement shall be submitted to GPPA for its approval, along with the complete contract file. All proposed contracts for procurement, that's a petition. Authorizing officers should ensure that the quotations are requested and provided by at least 3 independent bidders, and the most responsive bidder is selected before payments are authorized and approved. The Ministry of Health must provide FPAC within 7 days all material evidence related to the request for quotations. To relief package for overseas students, the committee realized that the Ministry of Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology that the Governor of the Gambia, through the Ministry of Finance and Finance and Economic Affairs, allocated 29.1 million as relief package to the Gambian students overseas who are not under Gambia government scholarship. On the findings, no eligibility criteria, no document guideline or policies or eligibility criteria exist to guide the management of the support to overseas students. In some countries, students on government scholarship receive support allowance, while students in other countries did not receive the allowance. As such, eligibility and selection criteria were not stipulated at the outset, and the differences between the amount received and paid to the beneficiary. The auditors noted a difference of 1,380,186.008 between funds received and recorded in embassies, cash book, and payment made to the student as shown in the table below. And there the committee conclude that based on the documentation and information obtained by the auditors, adequate and appropriate evidence was not presented by the Ministry of Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology to substantiate the proper identification of eligible students and the subsequent payment of allowances. The purpose of relief package is not achieved, hence there was no clear eligibility criteria used. And the committee recommends that payment of allowance to support students during the pandemic should not be carried out without clear eligibility criteria, and that embassies should ensure that unused balance of funds received should be returned to Accountant General's Department immediately. Support to tourism workers and tourism industry. The Ministry of Tourism and Culture, and Gambia Tourism Board. The Ministry of Tourism and Culture, in bracket the Gambia Tourism Board. From the approved supplementary appropriation, an amount of 100 million was allocated to the Ministry of Tourism and Culture, from which an amount of 89.9 million was allocated to the tourism sector through Gambia Tourism Board for onward distribution to the tourism industry. And the findings: difference between amount received and amount distributed, a difference of $7,821,105 was noted between the funds disbursed to GT Board for onwards payment to beneficiaries and the actual payment made to the beneficiary. No explanation was provided to the auditors to account for the difference. On budgeted payment, the total payment of $1,840,000 was made to various associations in the tourism industry, and some individuals were not included in the budget. Difference between cash withdrawal and total payments. There was a difference of $502,000 between an amount received to support individuals in the informal sector and actual amount disbursed to beneficiaries by the auditors, and no explanation was provided to account for the difference. Conclusion: based on the documentation and information obtained by the auditors, adequate and appropriate evidence was not presented by GT Board to substantiate the payment made by the tourism industry. And there the committee concluded that payment made to tourism industry did not fully comply with the laws and regulations that govern them. Some vulnerable business did not receive support to which they were entitled to. And the committee recommends payment officers should ensure that the monies allocated for specific purposes are only used for the intended purposes. GT Board must provide material evidence regarding $7,820,105 queried by the auditors, and that to support the tourism industry should not be made to beneficiaries who are not budgeted for, and payment officers should ensure that the monies allocated for specific purposes are only used for intended purposes. The outstanding balance, that is the $300,000 out of the $502,000, must be accounted for immediately. The relief package for the media houses, the Ministry of Information, Communication and Infrastructure also received a tune of $15 million for the media houses. And the committee's finding on that: unconfirmed balances, confirmation of the funds disbursed to media houses so that there were unused balances amounting to $585,159.86 from the total amount disbursed. The auditors could not confirm if this balance was subsequently used or paid back to the account as bank statement to verify the balances were not provided, and that non-submission of financial and narrative reports by the guarantees. No financial and narrative reports were received from some guarantees contrary to provisions of the grant agreement. As such, the auditors could not ascertain where the funds received were used for intended purpose. Full payment of media houses should only be completed after the submission of financial and narrative report. And the committee concludes that based on the information and documentation obtained by the auditors, the committee could conclude that the management of COVID-19 funds allocated to media houses has substantially complied with the laws and regulations that govern them, and recommend that failure of guarantee to keep and maintain proper and up-to-date records of any transaction carried out is a violation of grant agreement. The committee further recommends that the unused balance of $585,159.86 must be accounted for by GNC and Gambia Press Union. Full payment to media houses should only be completed after the submission of financial and narrative report. Honorable Speaker, let's go to Chapter 2 of the report that has to do with the Auditor General's report on the 2019 accounts of the government of the Gambia. And then while the committee drafts its mandate, a formal notification was sent by the Ministry of Finance to the budget entities or entities before or after the environments were made. Failure to present information on budgetary process. This was an issue that was also highlighted by the auditors, and you can see the list in the report. And the next one was on presented cash activity reports on program-based budgeting, was an issue raised by the auditors. As well as environment above 75% threshold is also an issue that was raised by the auditors. A total of 404 environments were said to have been made above the threshold of the 75%. Recommendation. The committee recommends that the evidence of environment approved by the minister should be provided to the auditors and copied to FPAC for verification. In future, the dictates of the financial regulations should be adhered to, and that the committee recommends that the budget agencies and entities are notified whenever funds are wired from their boards in accordance with the dictates of the Public Finance Act 2014, that the MOFIA should ensure that environments are properly executed to avoid excess and unwarranted expenditures, and should provide documentary evidence for making environments without notification. The committee recommends that the Ministry of Finance should ensure that the dictates of the Constitution and financial regulations are adhered to, and that the request documentation should be provided to the auditors for inspection and verification, and that the committee recommends that the Ministry of Finance provides the cash activity report to auditors for inspection and verification, and the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs should work with the Accountant General's Department to ensure that all segments in the chart of accounts are populated in order to report on actual amount spent on each program. The committee recommends that the management provides an explanation as to why environment were made over maximum threshold of 75%. On capital expenditure, the issues that were raised by the auditors are as follows: failure to adhere to GBA conditional approval for rehabilitation work at State House. And then this contract was awarded at a tune of $17,488,155.63 for the construction of the new President's Office and rehabilitation works at State House. On that, there is noted that to clearly define or clarify the supervisory role of the work as this is not indicated in the submission, and that to remove the $950,000 contingency allocation from the contract, and thirdly, the subtotal of $55,750 on page 2 or 311 to be added to the grant total to make up the $17 million. It was further noted that despite the failure of the contract to make the amendments directed by GPA work GPA work went ahead. and the committee therefore recommend that the Office of the President should ensure that evidence is provided to confirm that the required amendments were made before the commencement of the work. If the amendments were not made before the work began, the Office of the President should explain their failure to comply. On inappropriate procurement process by Office of the President was also an issue raised surrounding the 17.4 million. Approval was sought for the use of single source well after the rehabilitation work was completed, which is a gross violation of the GPA regulation. Under the payment voucher, the payment voucher that is indicated revealed that office equipment to the tune of 50 million was paid to Fatima Trading, for which no receipt, as well as signature of the receipt, was provided.
50,000, not 50 million.
5 point.
Honorable members,
no,
you
intervene. That is the portion I skipped.
Honorable members, please
that one.
always intervene by quoting
Now,
standing orders.
The goods bought from Fatima Training amounted to 5.6 million. The goods bought from Fatima Trading amounting to 5.6 million were delivered to the Office of the President before requesting for single source approval from GPA. And this one has to do with the receipt book relating to the office equipment at a tune of 50 million. That was also paid to Fatima Trading. Recommendation.
Observation. Page
50,000 rather.
50,000, thank you. Thank you.
50,000. Recommendation. The Office of the President and the Ministry of Works should provide explanation for the above abnormalities. And then also, Office of the President should follow such process for all procurements to ensure that public funds are judiciously spent for their intended purpose. Failure to adhere to contract agreement was an issue that was also highlighted by the auditors, and then the table below has outlined those areas that are affected. However, the auditors noted that the payment voucher, as mentioned earlier on, so that the payment voucher indicated herein, so that the Gaio Enterprise was paid the full amount of 17.4 million, as opposed to payment in stages. In addition, copies of the completion certificate for each stage were not provided to the audit team. And on that, the committee recommends that the Secretary General of the Office of the President should provide explanations for the above anomalies, and then should follow the procurement regulation to ensure that public funds are judiciously spent. Failure to gazette the award of Banjul Drainage Roads and Sewage Project was an issue that was also highlighted by the auditors. That the project that was awarded to Guy in May 2019 amounting to 35.7 million should be gazetted before the conclusion of the ingredient procurement and construction contract. And the committee on that recommends the Ministry of Trade, the Ministry of Transport, Works and Infrastructure should provide the above documentation for audit verification, and furthermore, the ministry should follow proper documentation procedures for transparency and accountability. The flaws in Banjul Drainage Road and Sewage Project was an issue that was also highlighted by the auditors, that the major omissions such as detailed study and design work, schedule, and the bill of quantity in the Lot 1 prepared by the Ministry of Trade and Infrastructure were identified, and there was no evidence of due diligence conducted to confirm that the contractor has available financial resources, including performance security to execute the project. On that, the committee recommends that the Office of the President at the Ministry of Transport, Works and Infrastructure should provide an explanation for accepting this form of contract. Similarly, evidence that Guy Enterprise is the most suitable and qualified contractor to carry out this project, including any due diligence performed before the contract was awarded to the said contract, should be provided to the auditors. On delay in submission of technical and design specification was an issue also that was raised, and then the committee recommended that the dictates of the contract should always be followed to ensure that the project implementation is in line with the requirements of the government of the Gambia. The non-registered supplies is also an issue raised, and the committee recommends that an explanation and justification for awarding contracts to non-registered GPS suppliers should be provided, and in future, sanctions should be imposed on all accounting officers that award contracts to non-registered GPS suppliers. On unjustified single-source procurement was an issue also that was raised, and committee recommends that all future procurement should follow the due process. On presented payment vouchers, the various payment vouchers are listed below, and then the committee recommends that Accountant General should provide all the unpresented payment vouchers and supporting documents to the auditors for review without delay. In future, all payment vouchers and supporting documents should be provided when requested. On revenue, that has to do with GRA revenue. Management and control of the GRA receipt books is an issue that is also highlighted, and the table provides the affected areas and recommendation. The committee recommended that the Commissioner General of GRA must immediately adhere to the provisions of Public Finance Act 2014 and the financial regulation to ensure sound internal controls, and that the Accountant General should engage the Commissioner General of GRA so that this anomaly is regularized as a matter of urgency. On issuing of receipt without recipient signature is an issue also noted by the auditors, and the committee recommends that GRA should ensure that the revenue collectors who are supplied GTR books sign against their names as evidence that they have received them. On failure to record GTR books received from GPPC was also highlighted, and then the committee recommends that the Commissioner General of GRA should ensure that the receipt books printed and supplied by GPPC is maintained for its reconciliation and control, and that all receipt books should be controlled and supplied by the Accountant General Department in compliance with the Public Finance Act 2014. On non-GRA revenue, the GRA scanning proceeds. On no bank of daily collection, that was issue highlighted by the auditors, and on that the committee recommends that GRA should make daily backups without delay. And on overstatement of scanning fees and revenue, the table provided, and the committee recommends that management should ensure that the scanning revenue balance recognized in the financial statement is adjusted accordingly. On failure to perform reconciliation was also an issue, and the committee recommends that management should ensure that timely bank reconciliations are performed, reviewed, and that the errors and omissions detected are investigated and adjusted accordingly. On absence of skill and knowledge or knowledge transfer between the NIC TC Scan Gambia Limited is an issue noted by the auditors, and the committee recommends that GRA should arrange to have its staff trained to operate the system before the expiry of the contract. On non-tax revenue, as for the ministries and departments, for Geology Department, failure to maintain receipt books, receipt book registered is an audit query, and the committee recommends that the Department of Geology should ensure that the copies of the request made to the Accountant General are properly filed, and that the department should also maintain a register to record their in GTR books received from the Accountant General's Department and issues made to collectors, and that the dictates of the financial regulations should always be adhered to. Judiciary unaccounted GTR book is an issue also queried by the auditors under judiciary, and recommendation, the committee recommends that the Accountant General should investigate the missing receipt book and provide details of their investigation to audit team for confirmation. The committee recommends that the stringent controls are instituted over the management and custody of the receipt books, and that the dictates of the financial regulations are always adhered to. On failure to provide information on Journey Commission proceeds, it is also an audit query, a tune of 22.3 million. The committee recommends that the Accountant General should liaise with the Ministry of Justice to ensure that the relevant documents requested are provided immediately, and that the dictates of the Constitution and financial regulation should always be adhered to. Cash and cash equivalent, on that, differences between Note 15, that is the cash and cash equivalent, and the ledger, and the general ledger rather, the table provided the details, was also an edit query, and differences in translating foreign health account, the table also highlighted the issue, and the overdue on reconciled items was also an issue queried by the auditors, and inaccurate balances used to perform bank reconciliation, the table highlighted, and then the stale checks, as well as unaccounted cancelled checks, were issues that were queried by the auditors. And the committee recommends that the committee demands that the Accountant General investigate and correct this difference and furnish evidence to the auditors for review by December 2023. And that the committee demands that the Accountant General ensures that the difference is adjusted accordingly, and evidence of adjustment should be provided to the auditors for review by December 2023. The committee demands that the above omissions are adjusted and details provided to the auditors for verification, and furthermore, unreconciled items should be investigated and cleared from the various accounts. That the Accountant General should ensure that all bank reconciliations performed are reviewed and signed off. The reviewing officer should also ensure that the errors and omissions detected are investigated and adjusted accordingly, and that the Accountant General corrects all inaccuracies identified above and provide evidence to auditors for review. The Accountant General should establish a proper control system to monitor the reconciliations done on all accounts by December 2023. That all TMA stale payments should be transferred to the deposit account, and that all BTL payments in respect of the checks are cancelled. Unpresented checks should be transferred to the Consolidated Revenue Fund. 5 years as per IFMI's accounting procedures manual from the date it was transferred to the special deposit account. On financial instruments, on failure to disclose financial instrument was an issue that the auditors query. Misclassification of other equity participation, the table as shown below, was an issue also queried by the auditors, and the committee recommends that adequate and appropriate disclosures related to other equity participation should be made, and Accountant General should liaise with the Ministry of Finance to ensure that timely provision of documentation to facilitate the disclosure of share acquired by government. The committee further recommends that the Ministry of Finance provide the annual reports of all institutions where government of the Gambia holds equity participation, and that the Accountant General should give explanation of the disclosures and provide necessary documentary evidence to the auditors for inspection and should ensure that the disclosure notes are accurate and complete. On grants, the auditors noted failure to provide records of grant disbursement, which amount to $92,323,463.51. The table shown below, and the committee has made the following recommendation. The conciliation should be performed in respect of grant disbursed to individual projects on regular basis, and the dictates of the Public Finance Act should always be adhered to. And that notice with grave concern and recommend that the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs provide records of above grant disbursement. On outstanding commitments, differences in balance of outstanding commitment was also queried by the auditors, which amount to $26,000. And the table is detailed below. Unclear balances in the statement of outstanding commitments was also queried by the auditors, a tune of $351,693,000, $351,693,000. Table below. Recommendation: Accountant General should provide the breakdown of the amount of outstanding commitment for the ministry and should ensure that any difference is corrected by December 2023, and that Accountant General should list with the Ministry of Finance to engage accounting officers to ensure that funds commitments are not made when budgetary funds are insufficient, and should ensure that the outstanding commitments are cleared on a monthly basis. The tax receivables, on differences between tax revenue received in cash book report and the general ledger, table shown below, and B, difference between tax revenue in cash book and amount disclosed in financial statement, the table also shown below, and the committee recommends that the Accountant General should carry out a comprehensive reconciliation exercise, and that the Accountant General should investigate the causes of the differences in tax reconciliation amount disclosed in the financial statement, and details of findings should be forwarded to the auditors for confirmation, and that the above findings with grave concern and recommends that the Accountant General resolves the above stated observation by December 2023. Arrears and guarantees under the deposits, the auditor's query on misclassifications of revenue, as well as the third-party amounts with balances at the year-end and dormant accounts not disclosed, the tables below. Misclassification of revenue accounts as a third-party account also queried, and the table is detailed below. Recommendations: the Accountant General should make effort to reverse the accounting treatment and transfer the funds to appropriate revenue bank account. The Accountant General should also ensure that the balances in these accounts are transferred to their respective beneficiary accounts at the year end, that the dormant accounts should be closed and the balances transferred to the consolidated fund, and the details furnished to the auditors for verification, that the dictates of the financial regulations should always be adhered to, and the Accountant General should ensure that the correction is made as soon as possible and details furnished to auditors for verification. The committee noted the observation of the Auditor General with grave concern and further recommends that the Accountant General urgently reverse the accounting treatment and transfer the funds to the appropriate revenue bank account. On timber process, the auditor's query failure to provide the number of containers exported by against, that is in December 2019, and also unaccounted government revenue was also queried by the auditors at tune of 8.6 million US dollar. And then the detail as shown below in the table. Unauthorized use of revenue from sale of timber was also an issue queried by the auditors. The detail provided on the table below, an unsupported payment of timber proceeds to the government of Senegal. The process also is queried by the auditors. Failure to adhere to contract agreement was also queried by the auditors, and the table is indicated below. There, the committee make the following recommendations. The Ministry of Environment should make follow-up with agents to provide information on number of containers exported from the inception of this agreement to date, as well as corresponding revenue collected for the same period. And B, action should be taken by the management to investigate the accountability of the revenue generated through the exploitation of timber, and details should be furnished to the auditors for verification. And that the Ministry of Environment should provide evidence of approval of National Assembly to the FPAC, or appropriate sanctions will be applied to the officials involved. We request that any document regarding agreement between the two governments be presented to FPAC for verification. We demand an explanation with supporting evidence for the procurement of the outstanding 2 vehicles and their place of allocation. We also request explanation from the management for the procurement of 15 motor vehicle brands that are different from specifications stated in the contract. And lastly, the committee further recommends that Ministry of Finance must provide delivery notes, the chassis numbers and the locations of the 2 outstanding vehicles procured through UNOPS within 7 days, and on public debt. Non-disclosure of penalty and commitment fees was an issue raised by the auditors, and then the committee recommends that the Accountant General should ensure that these charges are disclosed in financial statement, and that the committee noted with great concern the observation of the National Audit Office, and further recommends that the Ministry of Finance should be held liable for any such lapses in future. On loss of public money, losses not fully recovered or written off is an issue that is also queried by the auditors. And the table has detailed it below. Recommendation: the Accountant General should make every effort to ensure that amounts are recovered and should provide status update on these suspected fraud cases. The committee noted with great concern the findings of the Auditor General and further demanded that the Accountant General provides an urgent update on these suspected fraud cases, given the names of the persons involved, their offices, and the periods concerned by October 2023. On lending, failure to recover on lending loans to state-owned enterprises is an issue also queried by the auditors, and the details are tabled below. And the committee therefore recommend for the Ministry of Finance to ensure that there are adequate policies and procedures regarding repayment of loans on lend to state-owned enterprises, and the committee further recommends that the Ministry of Finance urgently ensure that these loans are fully recovered by putting in place a payment plan which should be shared with FPAC. If you miss, no steering committee minutes was also queried by the auditors, and the committee recommends that Accountant General should provide updates on FPAC on the revitalization of the IT Steering Committee. Change management system is an issue that is also queried, and the committee recommends that the Accountant General should ensure that a change management system is put in place, and that the committee further recommends that the Accountant General should ensure that every change in the system is properly documented. On no service level agreement for internet and generator service is an issue that was also queried, and the committee recommends that the Accountant General should ensure that clear terms and measurable guidelines are identified and agreed with the service provider, and the logbook to server room is an issue also that was also queried. Some members of the technical team was also queried, and the committee thereafter recommends that the Accountant General should ensure that the staff enter into the server room are always recorded for each access. On main UPS in server room does not synchronize is an issue finance will initiate creation and insurance commission for better regulation of the insurance industry. That central bank's business continuity plan should be in place to provide direction in the case of any possible eventualities. Central bank's BCP should be documented and tested to ascertain that the plans in place are appropriate for central bank's continued operation when disaster hits. The BCP test should be conducted to be at least twice every year and locked in variable manner that the ICT unit of the central bank should determine its own interface policies and cater for future adjustments such as the cybersecurity guidelines, and central banks will determine its own security policies in very clear terms for both internal and external connectivity, and periodically update them when necessary. And that central banks should also do periodic network generation testing. Central banks should consistently look at system security logs to correct issues accordingly. National Audit Office should look at the audited accounts of the gun switch, since government has a major stake in it. Auditors should capture prior year matters in their report to help FPAC track the implementation of its recommendations. On National Audit Office, the findings during the interface with the board and management of National Audit Office also, that one also, the committee observed that National Audit Office reported that the staff constraint resulted in the backlog of their reviews, that a government to Accountant General's Department has chosen cash-based accounting for National Audit Office. National Audit Office intention of migrating to an accruals basis after 5 years of cash-basis accounting since 2007 rather has not materialized. National Audit Office does not have a written fuel policy. Drivers are escorted by officials of the Accounts Department for fueling. National Audit Office fuel policy is expected to be ready by end of July 2022. That National Audit Office asset register for IT equipment was said to have been kept separately. The updated fixed asset register was provided to FPAC for verification, and that the Wellness Center at the National Office requires staff to be deducted monthly. Manual entry of the payroll data at the Accountant General caused the differences in National Audit books. Two parallel systems, EPICO 10 and then the NASDNA, existed with no interface. The accruals for the public sector would require milestone resources and training for effective implementation, and that the GBA compliance review for the years 2017 to 2021 were scheduled to take place in August 2022. On that, the committee recommends that the Chief of Staff and Inspector General of Police should ensure that the commandeering of National Audit Office vehicles should stop immediately. National Audit Office should trace and provide all query documents to the external audits for verification by October 2023. Auditor General should notify FPAC about all cases of surcharge and those reported to the Inspector General of Police for possible prosecution. On Financial Intelligence Unit, the Finance Subject Committee, the legal framework of FIU does not guarantee its autonomy. There is no loans policy for senior management. FIU's backup files are stored on flash drive within their premises, thereby exposing the institution to risks of data loss. That the GBA's 2020 compliance report for FIU was not finalized at the time of the FIU's appearance. And there the committee recommends that FIU must put in place proper backup policies, which need to be documented in their BCP, that the storing data on flash drives as backup must stop immediately, and proper backup solutions must be implemented to ensure that their data is stored in a safe and reliable medium. These solutions must be implemented in 2023. That FIU must consult the Ministry of Justice regarding the draft amendments to its act to ensure that they are properly aligned with the other laws of the land, and that the Gambia must implement the global anti-money laundering or counter-terrorism financial recommendations. Otherwise, the country will be blacklisted with the risk of investors not coming to the country. On National Council for Civic Education, the findings of the committee. Civic education is expected to be a compulsory subject at all levels of the education system, and the first examination on it is expected to be in 2024. A retreat organized by the NCCE revealed staffing gaps. This led to the development of scheme of services as well as finance and administration policy. Award of contract to review, the NCCE Act was not awarded using competitive bidding. That non-numbering of payment vouchers remains unresolved, and that the following prior year audit findings remain pending. They are listed below. Recommendation of the committee. NCCE must have competent staff to take charge of its accounts, and this should be done by October 2023. NCCE must collaborate with the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education as part of its school engagement program, and outstanding prior year matters need to be resolved as a matter of urgency. Management Development Institute, the committee findings. The fixed asset register of MDI was maintained by procurement unit until end of 2021. A general audit recommended transferring it to accounts department, and MDI's challenges with external auditors have to do with negotiation of fees and increase of the period from 3 to 5 years. That the lack of efficient receivables recovery mechanism resulting to an outstanding amount of 15.1 million as of 13 December 2020. Double payment of allowances regarding telephone and fuel when beneficiaries already have official vehicles and post-paid telephone line. Under the committee recommends that the accounts department should have the responsibility to prepare the accounts of the institution as part of their work, and that the payment on review for the preparation of their accounts must be immediately stopped. Appropriate steps must be taken by MDI to get right staff in accounts department by end of December 2023. That MDI must implement a student portal where students can access their information on fee payment, grades, etc. by end of December 2023, and that locally available options of student portal should be explored to ensure value for money. NDR service scheme needs to be thoroughly reviewed to eliminate duplication and remedy the gaps. And MDI fuel should be properly managed and controlled. Lapses should be addressed to reduce misappropriation. That evidence of settlement of outstanding tuition fees by ministries must be presented to FPAC to confirm resolution of the issue by end of October 2023. And finally, MDI to provide a copy of its revised scheme of service to FPAC for review. Honorable Speaker, on Public Utilities Regulatory Authority, the committee's findings: since 2019, all telecom operators were reportedly issued licenses for international voice gateway. Oil companies continue construction of fuel stations even after amendment of the regulations, and Department of Fiscal Planning issues permits for construction of fuel stations even when PURA is not satisfied with the application, and that there is proliferation of fuel stations in residential areas. On that, the committee recommends that PURA Act and Information and Communication Act 2009 must be updated to reflect the current realities of the sector. PURA and the aligned ministries should come with the amendments to any Act of Parliament for the proliferation of the fuel stations in residential areas, and that PURA is to provide a breakdown of the 13.3 million penalty charges, that the laws need to be amended and enforced to control the proliferation of fuel stations in residential areas, and part of the licensing fees need to be given to PURA instead of paying everything to central government. That appropriate fines must be levied on Jar Oil for their willful non-compliance of the regulation and taken to court if need be. Department of Fiscal Planning should not issue permits for construction of fuel stations without clearance from PURA. On National Roads Authority, the findings of the committee: the debt of 19.7 million in advance paid by NRA to Copri Limited in 2013 were written off in 2020 without a proper provisioning policy, and that NRA does not have the legal documentation to claim ownership of their landed properties. NRA uses the Public Finance Act 2014 and Financial Regulation of 2016, which are in accordance with the government's cash basis accounting policy, whereas NRA prepares its accounts based on the accrual accounting policy, and the NRA staff personnel files are not up to date as differences were identified between the net salaries of staff compared to their contract letters in the files. That NRA does not carry out staff appraisals as required by the staff service rules. And finally, the salary advances are paid to staff from petty cash. On that, the committee recommends that provisioning policy approved by the board and in line with the government policy should be put in place, and that effort should be made to obtain title deeds of all their landed properties. The valuable service of all landed properties should be carried out by an independent valuer, and then amounts recorded in the financial statements. And a financial manual containing accounting policies reflecting the financial reporting requirements should be deployed, should be developed and put in place. That the staff personal files should be up to date, and HR should carry out reviews of cash file to ensure that it is up to date. The practice of using petty cash for salary advance should be discontinued immediately. National Environment Agency, the committee made the following findings. 2020 audit of National Environment Agency was completed, but some issues remain unresolved because the exit meeting was never held, and that the National Environment Agency did not respond to the issues raised by the GBA in the 2019-2020 compliance report. And the committee recommends that the management of NEA should respond to GPA queries on all issues before end of December 2023 and copy to FPAC accordingly, and that all audit queries must be reported to NEA, and auditors must show all unresolved queries in the subsequent years, and that NEA Act 1994 needs to be reviewed to address the composition of the National Environment Management Council, among others. On Drug Law Enforcement Agency, Gambia, the committee made the following findings: that the policies and guidelines were not in place for expenses relating to payment of informants, and that the DLAG has not been remitting withholding tax as dictated by law, resulting to cumulative values of $946,242.7 and $1,648,501.57 for 2017 and 2018, respectively. The committee recommends that the management should ensure that the policies and guidelines are in place for expenses relating to payments of informants, and by December 2023, that the management should ensure that withholding tax is deducted from the suppliers and remitted to GRA as dictated by the law. Public Service Commission, the committee made the following findings: PSC occasionally conducts disciplinary investigation at government institutions. PSC's recruitment process from application to interview is now fully digital. PSC advises the President and Secretary General on all public service matters. PSC regulation, code of conduct, and general orders were revised in 2023, and induction program of PSC are only conducted for cadet officers. The committee recommends that there is needed to review the remuneration package of the PSC, and that the chairman of PSC should appear in person whenever his institution is summoned to appear before FPA, and that PSC needs to be relocated to a more spacious area for better performance because they currently share office space with PMO, the National Youth Service Scheme. The findings of the committee: the board chairperson of National Youth Service has not been available to steer the affairs of the institution, and no one has been delegated to oversee the position. That the Ministry of Youth and Sports is said to be aware of the current situation at NYSS, and that the Director General of NYSS has been on administrative leave for a long time, and that usurpation of role of the accountant by the Executive Director was reported to the board chairperson, but the matter was not addressed. The accounts of NYSS have not been audited, and the financial report of 2019 and 2020 are at the drafting stage, and that a panel consisting of representatives from the different ministries was reportedly set up to investigate the Executive Director and accounts of the NYSS. That the principal accountant of the NYSS had been on leave from 17 June to 30th August 2021, following his involvement in an accident. He has been appointed since 2011, and the position of the Director of Financial Administration was also advertised, and that the acting Executive Director of NYSS began overseeing NYSS on 21st July 2022, but no board meeting took place since then. On that, the committee recommends that and demands that the Ministry of Youth and Sport regularize the situation at National Youth Service Scheme by November 2023, failing which the budget for the institution would not be considered. To the chairperson or vice chairperson of the board of NYSS must attend in person whenever they are scheduled to appear before FPAC, and that FPAC should inform the Ministry of Youth and Sports about its engagement with NYSS but the management of NYSS shall inform its board of directors. The board of NYSS must communicate to the executive director forthwith to allow the accountant to do his work while he concentrates on his role as ED. The key senior person of NYSS must be immediately filed in line with laws so that they can assume their roles in the institution. National Enterprise Development Initiative. The committee's finding: auditors review the account opening files of the various banks operated by NEDI and noted that none of the accounts opened has approval from the Accountant General's Department, although a letter of account opening requested to Auditor Accountant General was presented for confirmation, but there was no reply to the letter sent. On recommendation, the management of NEDI must regularize the issue relating to account opening and inform National Audit Office accordingly. Scanned copies of the annual activity reports and audited financial statements of NEDI must be emailed to the Committee Secretariat of the National Assembly, Independence Stadium and Friendship Hostel. The Independence Stadium and Friendship Hostel did not present its annual activity reports and audited financial statements for 2019 and 2020. The GBA also did not present any compliance report on Independence Stadium. The committee recommends that the audited accounts of Independence Stadium for the years 2019 to 2022 must be submitted to FPAC by December 2023. National Sport Council. The committee's finding on National Sport Council: the approved budget of the National Sport Council is not communicated to them by the Ministry of Youth and Sport. Thus, they do not know how much their approved budget is. That the support staff were paid allowances for attending council meetings, and no justification was provided for the payment of allowances to the support staff. And that the acknowledgement letter was not received from GBA on the procurement plan that was sent for in 2019 procurement. The serial numbers of the fuel coupons were not recorded, and the amount purchased issues made and the balance after issues were not recorded in the fuel register. The loan of the $600,000 to the Ministry of Youth and Sport remains outstanding. On that, the committee recommends that National Youth Council should ensure that an approved detailed budget is provided to them by the ministry. National Youth Council should ensure that evidence on payment of allowances to support staff is provided. The management should ensure that the acknowledgement letters are received from GPA on its procurement plan. And finally, National Sport Council should record the serial numbers, amount purchased, issues made, and then balance after issues of fuel coupons in the fuel register. National Youth Council. Recommendations, or findings rather, and observations. Accounts of National Youth Council are appropriately used as transit accounts for transfer of foods to several beneficiary organizations. The Ministry of Youth and Sports was said to have promised to provide National with food to fence its land to save National Youth Council from the high cost of rent and losing the land. On that, the committee recommends that the exorbitant rate paid by the government institution need to be controlled, and this requires the Rent Act to be revisited. A breakdown of rent from the various donors of National Youth Council needs to be provided with the specific activities they are intended for, and that the Ministry of Youth and Sports should acquire its own complex that can house all the satellite institutions of the ministry. On the Gambia Bureau of Statistics, the findings: it has been observed that some payment vouchers amounting to $464,227 were not presented for audit inspection, and some were not numbered. The procurement of goods and services amounted to $450,000, $50,850 were done without the three required invoices from the different suppliers, and that the Bureau did not provide agreement entered into between them and the hospital for treatment of their payment staff for the years 2017, 2018, and 2019, and that our payment salaries amounting to $15,260 to staff, and the payroll system did not include the history of some staff. And it has been observed that assets recognized in the financial system for the years ended 2017 to 2019 were not confirmed. And it is also noted that the Bureau did not recognize or disclose some of its assets in the financial statement, even though they are deriving benefits from their use. The committee has a long list of these findings. I believe, permit me, Honorable Speaker, on this point to go straight to the recommendations. The management should immediately provide the payment vouchers for audit inspection and ensure that every payment voucher raised is filed and numbered accordingly. All procurement should be done in accordance with GPA Act, rules and regulations. Failure to do so will result in concerned officer being reprimanded. All contract documents should be immediately submitted by management for audit inspection. All the newly appointed staff should be paid the actual number of days worked for and not the whole month. The payroll software should be investigated to ensure that the historical data of all staff is stored. The management should also ensure that the fixed asset register shows the location, description, or type and condition of the assets to verify the asset, and that the management should ensure that all assets are recognized, disclosed, or disposed of in the financial statement of their fair presentation. Management should ensure that the non-recognition of land and building are disclosed in the notes to the financial statements, and that the Bureau should state this as valuable in the financial statement instead of revaluation, and then provide supporting documents relating to the support provided by the Ministry of Land. And that the management should make sure that the loan recoveries are banked to the revolving loan account monthly, and the Bureau should provide the authority for issuing the said loan and the interest rate applied. The Bureau should apply the interest rate as per the service rule. The management should ensure that future monthly reconciliations are performed in order to detect and correct errors or omissions on time. The management should ensure that individual ledgers are maintained for each creditor. Management should ensure that there are accounting policies for expenditure and deferred income in the financial statement. Management should ensure that adequate disclosures are provided for the account balances. The management should ensure that the accounts unit is adequately staffed to minimize the risk of errors or omissions and fraud. Management should liaise with the service providers to remedy the situation or look for other systems. Management should ensure that formally documented and approved use management standards and procedures are in place for monitoring, controlling, and supervising the system. Each user should be given a unique username and password which must never be shared. And finally, management should ensure that periodic reconciliation is performed between the financial and payroll system to avoid misuse of funds or errors. On the Gambia Competition and Consumer Protection, again, Honorable Speaker, we have a long list of findings which also are related to the recommendations that are made, and there, can you permit me to take you through the recommendations provided? On that, the forms should be filed and then submitted to the pensions authorized to ensure there is full compliance with the documentation as required. Management should look into developing the land allocated to be in compliance with the offer letter from the Ministry of Land and avoid never-ending rental expenses. Management should ensure that the birth certificates are obtained for all staff to ensure all departments using the medical scheme are biologically children of the employees, that all medical cards of the staff leaving should be handed over to the Commission, and that the management should ensure that the year-end cash accounts are conducted and certificates issued and signed by a witness, which is an act as supporting documents to confirm that the reported cash in the financial statement existed at the reporting date, and that all assets in use by the Commission that meet the criteria of the capital grant should be disclosed, and that the management should ensure that such assets in use by the Commission that meet the criteria of the capital grant scheme should be disclosed in line with the recommended accounting standard on capital grant, and that the management should ensure that the monies involved in the fraud cash concerning fuel coupons should be fully recovered immediately. Honorable Speaker, on Gambia Public Procurement Authority, on that, permit me to take you through the recommendations. After considering the reports presented, and the committee recommends as follows: the board should ensure that it has a comprehensive TOR specifying how it should conduct its business and should meet quarterly as required by the Act. That all documents required for the registration process should be submitted and properly filed before the certificate is issued to the supplier. Job descriptions should be developed for all the staff and copies maintained in their personal files. Statutory deductions on taxes and pensions should be paid on or before 15th day of the following month. Outstanding balances must be settled immediately, and the management should engage the staff with non-performing loans and ensure they are fully recovered by December 2023. That the Ministry of Finance should designate an institution to review GPA's procurement, compliance, and reporting accordingly. There is need to look at the regulatory framework for single sourcing to ensure value for money. Gambia Revenue Authority, Honorable Speaker and members of the August Assembly, permit me to take you through the recommendations. Management should ensure the asset module in accounting system is utilized, which should automate the asset management of the authority. Going forward, management should ensure that the investment appraisal process is documented and approved, that GRA to immediately submit to FPAC documentary evidence on all their investment with effect from 1st January 2023 up to date. The management should ensure there is full compliance with the approved loan policies of the authority, and all outstanding loans without title deeds must be corrected immediately. A staff loan provisioning policy should be developed and approved by the board to ensure consistency in the treatment. Management should ensure that the staff with long outstanding leave areas proceed on leave as soon as possible. Management should periodically review the threshold set and take a position in the event of staff exceeding the threshold. All employees that are no longer in the service of the authority should be deactivated. Management should ensure that delivery notes are always obtained after the purchase of fuel in line with best practice. Management should further improve on inventory system limitation to ensure historical data from the system can be maintained for adequate reviews and monitoring. National Accreditation and Quality Assurance Authority, the findings on that. The GPA has not conducted compliance review of NAGA for 2020, so its compliance report was not presented. And the committee recommends that GPA should urgently do a compliance review of NAGA procurement. The Gambia National Library. Honorable Speaker, on that too also, permit me to take you through the recommendations. A comprehensive financial administrative procedure manual should be developed to ensure policies, procedures, and responsibilities are clearly outlined, and the management should carry out detailed review of all the assets and update relevant depreciation policies for each class of assets. And the payroll summary and the general ledger should be reconciled monthly and reviewed by an independent person, and management should also investigate the difference and reconcile accordingly. Management should ensure that reviewed, corrected, and proper entries are being done for each account balance, and that the management should investigate differences and post-adjustment if necessary. On Gambia Technical Training Institute, we have a long list of the findings and observations and henceforth recommendations. Then allow me to take you through the recommendations. The internal audit should report directly to the board subcommittee. The overall planning of the internal audit work should be reviewed. The institute should operate in line with its approved annual budget and desist from all forms of pre-financing arrangement. Reconciliation should be done on a timely basis, and the resulting reconciling items should be investigated and resolved in a timely manner. Internal audits should carry out reviews of the general ledger, postings, and account balances to ensure that postings are accurate and complete. Management should ensure that statutory deductions are paid to the respective institutions within the required timeline. Management should review its current chart of account structure with a view to aligning the account structure with the reporting needs of the institution in order to facilitate the strategic financing decision making. Payment vouchers and bank transfers in respect of purchase of computers. must ensure that the audited accounts of the government for 2020 and 2021 are submitted for review by end of October 2023. Ministry of Finance needs to agree on roadmap and the way forward for migrating from the cash basis to accruals accounting system. The Ministries of Finance and Justice must review government's engagement with GAM works by October 2023 to safeguard public interest. The National Audit Office must thoroughly probe the writing of, in the books of NRA, the value of 19.7 million being advance payment to COPRI by NRE. The National Audit Office must take the lead in presenting their annual activity reports. Audited financial statement to FPAC on time. The committee further recommends that accounts of 2020 to 2022 must be submitted by December 2023. On that, Honorable Speaker, I want to seize this opportunity once more to thank the committee, and to that we have the committee comprising Honorable Alhaji Esdabo as chairperson, Honorable Alhaji Mbo as vice chair, Honorable Fatou Malanjai member, Honorable Fat Cham member, Honorable Musa Cham member, Honorable Keba Lang Fofana member, Honorable Keba Tumanisane member, Honorable Suleiman Cham member, and Honorable Sidi Eskenjai member. We could not do this work without the support of the subject matter specialists and our able staff. Mr. Karamba Ture, the former Auditor General, Mr. Fode Mjete, Director General, DPBA, Mr. Ablabi Cham, Subject Matter Specialist, Mr. Yuswa Eka, Subject Matter Specialist, and Dr. Aliu Opal, Subject Matter Specialist. The staff, the Clerk of the National Assembly, Mohamed A. Sisi, Mr. Daniel Carlos, Deputy Clerk, Legislative Business, Mr. Malabi S. Hydra, Director of Committees, Mr. Lamin Imane, Principal Committee Clerk, Mrs. Nafisa Njai, Principal Budget Officer, Mr. Modika Ba, Research Officer, Sarata Bojang, Committee Clerk, and Aisatu Sonko, Committee Clerk, and all the witnesses who ably represented the various institutions and agencies. I thank you all for your participation and cooperation with the FPAC team. And to the August Assembly, I thank you all for your kind attention.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman or Chairperson of the committee, for your marathon and effective tabling of the motion. I now invite any honorable member who may want to second the motion. The honorable member for Lower Flood West.
Thank you very much. I rise to second the motion and also to take part in the debate. First and foremost, I thank the committee for the brilliant job that they have done, but I suggest it was not friendly to the August country. People were sleeping, some people were slumbering in the case. So I suggest next time, if you are coming with such a report, you better summarize it. But notwithstanding, looking at the report, I've seen a lot of issues that we need to take seriously as a nation. We are talking about finance of the government. And this is the finance that is taking this government ahead. So people must be serious when they are doing their duty. Because one, there was non-adherence noticed during the course of the report. And this non-adherence, what is the cause of that? Because people have been capacitized to serve the Gambian people. But yet still there are a lot of gaps in the report to show that non-adherence to some of the standards and principles or the operational procedures were not captured. And this is something that I also expect the committee to come up with strong regulations where some people that are found wanting will be put to book. We need to be serious as a nation. We need to be serious because there are issues that are emanating from some of these institutions. They are not accepted. And we cannot tolerate it. And the Assembly should be strong enough to come with regulations so that some of the people that are playing with the development of this country are put to book. Going back, there is poor data management. You go, they will say you receipts there, SAF files there. These are things that those days are gone. We are in the 21st century. I cannot go into an institution, ask for receipts, ask for staff profiles that you cannot produce it for me, and you want me to take you serious? This was highlighted in the report. And I expect us to come with strong resolution to see people that are doing this, because we cannot be receiving this report over and over. Poor data, non-adherence, those are things that we cannot accept for anybody. We have to be serious and move this country. Coming back, I'm going back to GPPA. 80%, I'm sorry if I'm wrong, that most of the services, goods and all are under GPPA. If we can have the recommendation here, this would be the first and last that this Assembly is going to recommend for GPPA. We need quality, we need standard. Enough is enough. This country have to move. You cannot be dilly-dallying us. Every now and then we'll be giving you recommendation, you cannot fulfill it. Those are not accepted anymore. I think the August House, we have to be serious and mean business. I said it some time ago, that some ministers or some heads should be sacked because we need business, and I'm repeating again. People need to take this country seriously. There are issues that are commenting on this report. Those are too very nice. And we have to move. This country needs to move. This is you go to the media, taxpayers' money, we handle the taxpayers' money. And there are standards that we need to follow. Why are we violating this standard? We cannot accept it, being it political motivated or whatsoever. We have to move. And I'm warning GPPA. Enough is enough. So many recommendations have emanated from this house, and you people are not coming, you are not tuning up. You need to tune up GPPA. Enough is enough. And the IFMI system, these are grants. Minister of Finance, I don't know if you are here. Grants have to be embedded in the IFMI system. It cannot be a shortcut to dribble anybody. Nobody can dribble us anymore. You see, the grants that are coming, they have to be inputted in the IFMI system. That will be the best way that we can account and do our oversight function. And I'm not in the grant. You can see that they are not in the IFMI system. Why? And then it was very sad that the councils look a very civilized way to maneuver. They look a very civilized way, the councils throughout the country. They don't have a proper reporting system just to maneuver and confuse us. If you ask them things, they start. This is no more going to be accepted. Councils have to be very serious. This is the taxpayers' money. This country have to move, my brother. And for the country to move, any tax going anywhere, this refer me to DRA. Receipts are lost. Why are they lost? I'm giving you receipts. Why are these receipts lost? How can we, and we cannot even implement this program-based budgeting. There is no money. We are not collecting the tax that we are supposed to collect because of these leakages. System must be inputted to make sure that no absolute leakages will happen. This country needs to move. And we have to move this country. Those are things that are not going to, and I urge the Assembly to be very serious and take matters on top of issues. Whosoever is not delivering, let put him to book. The laws are there. They need to be enforced. This country have to move, my brothers. This country have to move. And then the beauty is that there are people that are performing very well. The Drug Enforcement Agency, immigration, we all had the amount of money that they pump in. I'm suggesting to the Minister of Finance, let's have another way. Let's have an appraisal whereby we can enumerate those people doing very well, get them something, so that other people emulate to go. Over 180 million that within the 6 months that the Immigration Department have done that. So why not other people collecting revenue? And I think the Minister of Finance should be here. It was done some time ago when 3 million was extracted from whatsoever, where the drug squad were enumerated to make them do better. Those are the things that we need. We don't want the money to leak out to people that are not serving. We want people that are serving to be enumerated. Enough is enough. This country has to move. This country has to move. And on rental, I think the FPAC have said it clear. If you look at the amount of money that government is spending on rent, office there, it's no more going to happen. Let's be serious and build a massive areas that where all this government will come. Look at this rent. Some of them are not realistic. I own a compound. I'm a senior government officer. I go cut around. You rent my compound, pay me money. We have to be serious. Things have to move, my brothers. Things have to move. We are going to tax government to make sure that this rentage going all over, it will stop. If you look at the budget, any of the budget, rent, 340-something million, that could have built my Jakali Pacha. And I want Jakali Pacha to be built. How do you expect that to be built when everybody is putting a compound for rent? Enough is enough. This country has to move.
Enough is enough.
So I thank you. Yeah, that was my contribution. Thank you very much.
Enough is enough.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member for Lower Fuladu. Honorable members, I now put the question. It has been moved and seconded that this Honorable Assembly do consider the report of the Finance and Public Accounts Committee on the 2019 audited accounts of the government, Auditor General's report on COVID-19 response phase 2, annual activity report and audited financial statements of public agencies and institutions, area and municipal councils. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no. The ayes have it. Any honorable member may now take the floor. I now invite the honorable member for Latrikunda Sabiji.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor. First of all, I want to congratulate the Gambia Scorpion for going to another AFCON. I want the National Assembly to give them special. It's not part of the report, but it's part of the day.
You are permitted.
Thank you very much. Honorable Speaker, all the institutions are here probably because I see a lot of people sitting in the visitors' chairs today. What I just want to emphasize is we cannot be doing the same thing on and on and on. If institutions are reported here to listen to our report, the report always have recommendations and action points. But to my biggest disappointment and surprise, these recommendations are never implemented by these institutions, and they keep coming here on and on and on, and we also keep speaking to them on and on and on. I think at one point, something should happen that when we give recommendations to institutions, it is now mandatory on them, it is now obligation on them to implement those reports. We cannot be talking on the same thing now, every now and then. The biggest problem in this country is administrative incompetence, lapses, inconvenience, and administrative inconsistency. Because if I look at the Ministry of Education, where it was mentioned paying a retiree on contract, and the contract was also finished, but you keep paying him. This one is a serious administrative lapses that the Ministry of Education should look. And I'm sure the Ministry of Education has a lot of retirees that are on contract and their contracts were finished. I'm sure they are still paying some of them. So the Ministry of Education should pay attention to this very well. Honorable Speaker, with regards to the local council, the Gambians will not have their desired performance from the local councils if there is continuous executive interference into their functions and into their daily programs. I think this has to stop. Gambians will see a better council performance if the laws are changed, the local government act is changed. But if the government of the Gambia or the state continue to give them their CEOs, they will never perform. Look at what happened at the Kanifi municipality last time. Executive order to break an office to enter. Now you are telling that CEO, go to that office and do whatever you want to do. You have my backing. This is very wrong. You tell the CEO, you tell the police to go and break an office to let an officer to enter. What are you signaling? You are telling that officer, go to that office, do any corrupt practices, do whatever you want. You got my backing.
Observation.
So the local government will have their best performance if the executive interference is stopped. I'm not giving you a floor, please. Honorable Speaker, with regards to the state-owned enterprises, I think the government should understand these state-owned enterprises are our strategic national assets. Proposing privatization on them, managing their affairs, appointment based on political affiliations is not going to move these state-owned enterprises. So I think also on that angle, the executive should be very, very mindful. Honorable Speaker, I pray there is no other pandemic in this country or in the world, because I have never seen an instance, or I have never seen any historic moment in this country where government officials play with government funds more than the time of COVID. This was the time many people used as an opportunity to do whatever they want to do with public financing, all because of COVID. So I pray to Almighty Allah, there is no other pandemic in this country. With regards to the issue of contracts, award, and procurement process, Honorable Speaker, I have been in this sector for the past 12 years, contract management, contract award, and procurement process. This is also another biggest problem in this country where officials do whatever they want to do with public finance. How we award contracts are not, even though GPPA is there, but to me at one point I felt GPPA, sending requests to GPPA, approval or not approval, was just a performance. But every contract awarding institution has somebody, they should award this contract. And this is not fair. This is costing government of the Gambia quite a lot of money. Contract that should be $1 million, you snowball it to $3 or $4 million, this thing has to stop. So if you want to organize or manage our public finance system, we have to see how we award contracts and also the procurement process. Honorable Speaker, last but not least, the institutions, I will just repeat what I have said. The National Assembly have wrote and written. The chair of the FPAR committee has spoken. Now, what we now want to see is the actions from institutions so that we are not going to call you for the same report. Honorable Speaker, this brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member for Lower Latrikunda Sabi. I now invite the Honorable Member for Lower Salum.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor. And I must also thank the committee. They have done a good job. But then the bulk of the document, after all, Honorable Speaker, the recommendation doesn't tie up anything. Honorable Speaker, you cannot be business of the day, always the same issue. What the member for Fatou West, Lower Fatou? Honorable Speaker, are we serious as a nation? Honorable Speaker, you can see there's no, in an instant they said a farmer has spent this money. It's only the technocrat now. The member for councillor said we need national prayers. That should happen. 1,800,000 published that the national population is 1.8 million. 2 million, sorry, 2 million now. I agree with you, 2 million. We cannot do nothing. Honorable Speaker, any day we are constant of budget, that whenever there is a budget, budget that we should, all ministers should come. They said our budget, they have cut our budget. They have cut our budget. We cannot do this, we cannot do that. And when you yourself know that what you are doing is wrong, you can be given allocations. When you actually, what you are doing is wrong. Because if you're given a budget line, that you should do this, you have to divert it in other way around. And again, our biggest problem is the vote controllers, our biggest problems. You can see the gallery is as much as occupied with technocrats. Today, we cause this country to a problem, Honorable Speaker, not the farmers. The consumers are always in the problem. Honorable Speaker, I think this one should be taken by Parliament because it's a duty bound on us to do the right thing. Somebody can't do the right thing, we will start favoring you. There was a resolution that the FPAC passed here. They said the second phase of the FPAC report, we're going to do something about it. And those resolutions are pending like that. I said here, all these dubious acts, if you are caught, let's make a firing squad at the Bakari Squad. In other countries, if you are found in a crop practice, you are jailed. Honorable Speaker. Now, how many millions of dollars, Honorable Speaker, that we loot, I mean, not the farmers, we. Business cannot continue as it is. Honorable Speaker, we must serious on what we are doing. If the government cannot present a proper financial auditing, what do you expect the local councils? What do you expect? And where we have people with PhD holders, ACCA, chartered account, you cannot do a proper. What do you expect the local council will do? If you want to follow wrong, you do the right thing, Honorable Speaker, because each of us is taxed to do something. If you can't do it right, leave it. Somebody come in. Now you can check all the reports. In fact, our recommendation is very soft. And we are representing people that are the end users, that are the farmers. Here, on the report, no farmer issues is addressed here. They only address the issue of GPPA, contract hourly, rent. As the member said, you build a house, then somebody come and negotiate with you. And why there's an institution that, in fact, should negotiate this rent issue, that Kerr. You go there, you make your negotiated, and you spend huge amount of money. When you yourself, as a government, you can build offices. You can see what is happening at Kamalo, where the government can build offices for government people. But the chunk of our money is going to rent. And now you can see, you've been, how to call it, a finance director, or a vote controller, or how to call it, a GPPA custodian in that particular office. 1 year, 2, 3 years, you start driving vehicles, building good house. Honorable Speaker, we have to take this country seriously. To develop this country, it should be less than 5 years. Today, a bag of rice is $2,000. A gallon of oil, 1,500. Where are those monies coming from? The end users. There's no sympathies in us, with the technocrats.
You are a technocrat now.
Yes, of course I am, because I am representing an institution. Honorable Speaker, I think the way things are going, It should not be. We have to change our attitude. The entire Gambian people have trust on us and confidence. When you are given a position, make sure you execute your duties as we expected. It can be 100%. But all these loopholes, it should not be. Yeah, you've been a government. You cannot represent the proper financial auditing. What do you expect this council will do? And they have minimum resources. Even if the act of local government is being prepared by other experts, it's the same. The central government has laws, but even themselves, they are not going through that laws. What do you expect again? Because we are not serious on what we are doing. And again, there will be a judgment and a day of judgment for all this, what is happening. You doing it, you thought that you are doing it for yourself, trying to enrich yourself, when you are killing how many people outside? Because this one should be. They said, a business as usual. Put it under the carpet. Now, they said, we are going there. It's not someone who call us. Just, we put it there and finish it. We have to take actions. Honorable Speaker. If we cannot do it, we allow others to come and do it for us. Because you can see FPAC report. Now, after you give all these recommendations, what next? What next now? What have you recommended now? Those people who are catch in this dubious act. I have not seen anything there. This Muslim symptom should be taken off in our mind and develop this country forward, Honorable Speaker. I am ashamed of myself because today, you go down there, everybody are complaining. Everybody are complaining. But for us who are occupying offices, we are not. We always drive luxury cars with ACs. But the end users are always in a problem. Honorable Speaker. The gallery is not fit for purpose. Everybody is sitting down. Now let's talk as a national. Now we are seeing a national bantaba. I know they cannot speak here, but it is reality that is happening. Now you yourself, you should know that if they touch your institution, that this happen in your institution, that should happen, Honorable Speaker. Now you can even take that judgment in yourself now. Honorable Speaker.
Speaker, point of order. Yes, Honorable Speaker, every member shall restrict his or her observation to the subject matter on the discussion. I think we need to focus on the report, not to make general statements. We can have time for the adjournment debate. Please.
Can you make specific references, Honorable Member?
Honorable member is making general statements about the condition of the country. But what I'm saying is we have a report. He should make reference to the report when he is making his point. So we need to be focused on the report. So if we should all make general statements, we will not finish here. We'll spend weeks here.
Honorable, it becomes very difficult for a report like this to exclude any aspect of operations. The report almost incorporated everything operational in the Gambia. I just want to say that the honorable member for Lower Salum should not include everybody when he's referring to himself. We, the technocrats, for us, we are not technocrats. So you may be a technocrat. But please, it will be difficult to say that he's gone out of the remits of the debate, because the minority leaders
presentation is open-edged. It's almost everything. Can you continue, Honorable Member?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I know this parliament is not supposed to be a technocrat. Yeah. I know that 100%. But then I was just trying to sanitize the situation. You understand? I know that I am not a technocrat. I know that 100%. But what I'm saying here is the failure of this country is them, Honorable Speaker. You understand? Today, what should make us today not to cry on the Russia, from the war again? When our farmers are there dry, you can go to the suppos, to the rice fields. There are good working that is happening there. And when these millions of dollars are looted, when farmers are crying down there, Honorable Speaker, it's good we speak the truth. The member for Central Badu, this is 148 institution, ministry, department, agencies are captured that are taxpayers' monies they are working on. So if they don't do the right thing, we have to say it. I can't confine myself only on this because it's bulky. You understand? But fact of the matter is, Honorable Speaker, let's be serious on what we are doing. And I know most members will speak. I will rest my case here, but then what is happening, Honorable Speaker, is a shame on us. Thank you very much.
They couldn't generalize it. They got us. The same on you, on them.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member for Lower Salum. I now invite the Honorable Member for Brikama South.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. First, I want to thank the FPAC for coming up with this excellent report. And I would like to thank each and every member of FPAC, particularly the subject matter specialists and that of the support staff, especially those in the clerical job. The report is very excellent, it's well written. It has a special format, which I appreciate. And going forward, I think each committee should have tried, we have a standard reporting format that will align to this particular reporting. We really thank you for a job well done. Honorable Speaker, the report is very comprehensive, covering a lot of areas. Chapter 1 deals with the audit of the government COVID-19 response, phase 2. And in my own view, I know that the first phase was laid here, that attract a lot of recommendations and resolutions, and thank God this has impact positively in recovering some impresses. And I think this aspect could be a standalone as the second phase, so that it has a complete different recommendations, and that need to be followed to the latter. But if you look at the recommendations they have here, they are very important. And secondly, I would like to the FPAC and the entire National Assembly to work on recovery of certain physical money that we are disposed. And there are a lot of discrepancies that we need to recover. And some of the food items that were distributed, and there are some that were with certain governors. The only unfortunate part of this, like this was 2019, and from 2019 to date, there are a lot of changes within the system. And it's unfortunate for us to be considering this report today in September 2023. From 2019 to 2023, a lot of changes occur. It could be possible some people, may God forbid, may pass away. But actually, to fully follow up this thing and make sure that everything is in line is going to be difficult, but we have to try as a parliament to put the country on a firm footing. Honorable Speaker, also we want to look at this thing, the reporting of the National Audit Office. Sometimes there are a lot of bad logs that are coming very late. So I think we have to work together as a country to make sure that the national audit is at par with the corresponding year, so that if the audit is done in that year, the first quarter of the preceding year, we can do the presentation and possible consideration, so that we'll be able to follow up and make sure that all the recommendations are fully implemented. But again, also with the GPPA reporting, currently the National Audit Office is not at par with GPPA in terms of bad logs. If institutions appear for presentation and consideration, the GPPA sometimes will be absent because they are not at the same level in terms of this thing. So we have to look at it, how are we going to empower to make sure that the manpower of these two institutions should be reimbursed so that they can be able to live up to expectation. And secondly, if there are capacity gaps, how can we work for them to outsource to other audit firms that are available, like in the case of the public enterprises? Honorable Speaker, going forward, there are some areas that I definitely want us to look at it, especially in chapter 2 of the audit report, account of the government, which is very scary the way it is at the moment. If you look at it, I want to mention specifically the timber process that are unaccounted for.
Sorry, can you quote the page?
The page. Okay. Page 43. 43 of 97, unaccounted government revenue. The Auditor General third-party confirmation with the Gambia Ports Authority revealed that 2,393 containers of woods and timbers were shipped from 1st January 2019 to 30th April 2019. So in a corresponding figure, this is estimated at 8,614,800 euros, US dollars. So if you look at this figure, it's very huge, and this is unaccounted. So these are very serious issues as a country. Like my colleague alluded to, whether we are serious as a country, if this is coming from the government of the Gambia. These are very serious issues. And I partially agreed with Lower Salom MP. If we want the local councils to be very much serious, why not the central government? Because this is where everything is centered. And the consolidated local fund, the budget is purely almost 100% goes to the central government, ministries, agencies, and their department. So if there is serious compliance issue with regards to the central government, the issues of internal control, these are very serious issues. And look at the reports, and year in, year out, this continue to persist. It's good for us to ask ourselves whether we are serious as a country. If you look at that one too, I think we have to make sure that this is recovered. It's very serious. So going forward also, Honorable Speaker, let me also quote this page. If you talk about grant disbursement, failure to provide record of grant disbursement. The auditor also noted that there was a grant totaling to 92,323,463 and 51 buddhas. if you look at these things, I think, and this does not exist under the Ministry of Finance. I think the Ministry of Finance, their primary role, not only to disburse funds to ministries and departments, but to be a serious check on them. The issue of monitoring and supervision is lacking in the country. But look at, this doesn't exist in the Ministry of Finance, as shown below. So these are very serious things that we have to work on seriously. Honorable Speaker, and also I would like to re-emphasize about the prior year audit matters to be always carried forward to see that, because if these are contained in our books, you find it difficult to attract any donor agencies. Because they cannot be there only gathering dust and there is no effort to resolve these issues or write them off. These are very serious issues. Year in, year out, auditors will pick up the same issues and they are going to be compiling there. Definitely, I think the charity should begin at home, coming from the central government. Honorable Speaker, I also want to look at the public debt component. What are we looking at it? Like the debt burden will continue to grow simply because there is serious, what we call, like serious corruption in the system. This will happen. We cannot be borrowing money or bringing grant and giving to people, use it on an individual level, and continue putting pressure on the citizenry to pay this debt unnecessarily. These are serious issues. I think we need a special ministry that will be responsible for monitoring supervision. That is very, very important. Their primary role is to monitor and make sure that whatever is disbursed to any other MDA is fully implemented to the latter. Because if not, it's going to be difficult. Yes, the National Assembly as supreme oversight institution, we have a lot of numerous responsibilities. Oversight is one thing, but we have a legislative role, we have a lot of advocacy, and so forth. So, but if we have a ministry that will work in tandem with the National Assembly to make sure that whatever we generate as income should serve our citizenry. These are issues that definitely we have to look at it. And Honorable Speaker, this is going to be a responsibility. FPAC, I want to challenge FPAC. Like in a physical year, if you can be producing, because almost all these financial issues, 90% is going to FPAC. If you can be doing reporting almost, if quarterly is not possible, but twice in a year, I think that will help us to look at these issues critically and make sure that we come out with a very strong resolution. We work towards resolving those things. That is very, very important. I know you are tight, you have a lot of issues, every financial institution are coming to you. But if you can be reporting twice in a year, will really help us to make sure that we implement to the latter. Other than that, Honorable Speaker, I think there are a lot of issues here. I don't want to prolong the Parliament since adjournment debates are coming, but these are extremely important. I want to stop and thank you so much for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member for Brikama South. Now invite the Honorable Member for Kiang West. Sorry, Honorable Member, if your microphone is not working, why don't you shift? Because since the last breakdown, it looks like not all microphones are working.
Honorable Speaker, colleague, honorable members,
cabinet ministers here present, departments, press, National Assembly service staff, good afternoon. Honorable Speaker, let me also join colleagues to thank FPAC for doing such a great job. FPAC have done what they're supposed to do. I wonder why colleagues are challenging FPAC. Again, FPAC have done their job so diligently and have come with recommendations. It's left to us as Parliament to come with resolutions as to what we do as far as their recommendations are concerned. So we must commend you for doing such a great job. But commending you will not make sense without commending National Audit Office. We all know that the Auditor General of National Audit Office, by the dictates of the Constitution, the President has the power to appoint. And of course, he did the appointment of the National Auditor General of the National Audit Office. If he could go as far as finding foul plays at the office of the President without being silent about it, I am very much grateful, and I want to say thank you very much. Keep it up. Honorable Speaker, I want to start with the two institutions that are very important to give us an analysis that if those institutions are flouting rules of the GPPA, then no institution will respect them, starting with the Office of the President and the Minister of Justice. Honorable Speaker, from the report, page 23 of 97, it reads, failure to adhere to GPPA conditions, conditional approval for rehabilitation work at the State House. It says, Guy Enterprise was awarded a contract of $17,488,155.63 butut for the construction of a new President's office and rehabilitation works at the State House. The audit review revealed that the contractor was required by the GPPA to receive the bill of quantities and submit for approval before work can commence. And this should include the following, and this has not been done. It says, to clearly define, clarify the supervisory role of the works, as this is not indicated in the submission. This was not indicated in the submission, which is a key component of the work. It also says removal of 950,000 contingency allocation from the contract. 950,000 contingency allocation also from the contract. So if Office of the President could do this, and it does not also stop there under the Office of the President, it says, under inappropriate procurement process by the Office of the President, Roman figure C, it says, goods bought from Fatima Trading amounting to $5,637,000 were delivered to the Office of the President before requesting for single source approval from the GPPA. What is the purpose of the GPPA now? Let's abolish this institution. Let's make an amendment in the Constitution. We have no GPPA. If all the institutions are doing what they want to do, and they are not going through the law, they are not respecting the law, what is the purpose of the institution? And I pity the institution today, but because before they need to seek the approval of the GPPA before they do any process. But now we have promulgated a new GPPA law in this National Assembly where they can do their procurement and GPPS serve as an oversight institution on them. What will they do now? That is the question. All the institutions are flouting rules. Even the office of the president. If the office of the president can do this, what is it telling the other institutions? And this is why people are arguing that the president cannot punish people who are found wanting for corruption in this country because his office is found wanting for corruption. This is evident. This is really evident. Honorable Speaker, going to Minister of Justice, there were several allegations and clarifications were made by Minister in this very House. But it is appearing numerous times, time and time again. It's page 33 of 97. It reads, failure to provide information on Jane Commission proceeds. It reads, as part of the audit of the 2019 government of the Gambia consolidated financial statement by the auditors, it was noted that Treasury receipts amounting to $22,319,957.92 butut were reported as proceeds from the sales of assets by the Jane Commission. And evidences of these things were not provided. These are serious disclaimers, these are serious audit findings, these are adverse audit findings. Information are not provided for auditors' review to substantiate the information that you're giving to them. These are disclaimers that are not acceptable. Sometimes when we talk about them, they seem very simple, but these are very serious matters that we need to look at. And these issues appeared on newspapers, and Minister stood here and clarified it is appearing again, and we need to put a strong resolution to say that in a specific given time, Minister and the people responsible must provide the auditors with the information, with the necessary information for them to substantiate their information, the review, or else we take a step against them. We must take that resolution. Which institution will do it better now? Honorable Speaker, amount of differences that I have recorded from various departments is too huge. From the Minister of Higher Education, concerning the disbursement of funds to students at the embassies, there was a difference of $1,380,186.08. From the Ministry of Tourism, on the GT board, $7 million was recorded. And on the GRA, scanning fees offer stated was a difference of $36 million. So where are these differences going into? Are they not really doing the reconciliation what they're supposed to do? Or they're not doing timely reconciliation? And these differences are not being confirmed by auditors before presenting these reports. Where are these differences? We need to question that. Honorable Speaker, another one that I want to talk about here is financial instruments, which is also a very adverse audit finding. It says, failure to disclose financial instrument. The government of the Gambia had subscribed for shares, equity participation.
Honorable member, you must always lead members to where you are quoting.
Page 36. Page 36 on the financial instrument.
Go ahead.
It reads, the government of the Gambia had subscribed for shares, equity participation in African Development Bank, Islamic Development Bank, and ECOWAS Bank of Investment and Development as far back in 2016. Review of the previous financial statement by the auditors revealed that several payments have been made in 2016 to 2017 and 2018 respectively towards these subscriptions. However, the financial statement did not disclose government's equity participation in this bank. Government is not ready to tell them because government cannot tell us they don't have an expertise to definitely tell the National Audit Office the Gambia government's financial equity participation in these respective banks that you are subscribed to. You don't have an expertise to do that. This is a serious disclaimer, and it is deliberate. Honorable Speaker, under the same it says, the auditors requested for annual process reports and sales certificate from the Accountant General's Department to establish the number of shares subscribed in African Development Bank, Islamic Development Bank, and ECOWAS Bank for Investment and Development, including the amount paid and outstanding balance, but this was not provided. What is the government telling us? Why are we blaming institutions? The Accountant General, the chief custodian of all the accounts, for the collection of revenues and everything, is doing this as is unable to present such an important document. The Gambia has subscribed to these developed banks, which are international, and they are unable to provide the auditors with this information. What are we telling other institutions? What are we telling councils? Honorable Speaker, moving forward, it says, let me quote another one from, because there are very many serious issues that we really need to look at, but then we might not be able to finish them. This is a report that should take us, in fact, 5, 6, 7, 8 days for us to look at national funds. Imagine COVID-19 response fund. The first budget that was appropriated from this parliament for COVID-19 response fund was $500 million. $500 million. And that was not the end of it. And we all clearly witnessed that the minister stood here in this very parliament and said, there is corruption in my ministry. Everyone was rushing to the front line to have more allowance. There were ghost names included for payments of allowances. COVID-19 response fund. Imagine if $500 million Gambian dollars was spent on agriculture. If it was spent on education, what are we going to do? Honorable Speaker, coming to the Gambia College, the institution that I have undergone, and I have seen the principal of the Gambia College. I don't know if he has stepped out. Honorable Speaker, on the Gambia College, auditors reported that they have requested management response as far as their audit reports are concerned. It took Gambia College and institution 10 months to just write a management response. This is what we have found. What is your concern? Make clarification. But it took you 10 months. They have not taken the National Audit Office serious, and we have to put a sanction on them as far as this is a strong resolution. If it happens again, we sanction them. This is an institution that we have all undergone, and we are complaining. This is an institution that is recruiting people and posting them to various schools, public schools in this country, to train future leaders, future presidents, parliamentarians, and ministers. If they have been requested to just write management response, it took them 10 months to do this. 10 months to respond to the report of the national officer. Just management response. This was serious negligence. In fact, it is gross negligence. In fact, I will call it gross negligence. Honorable Speaker, I will go to the councils and then I will conclude. Looking at the councils, Honorable Speaker, I want to come up with a resolution that immediately, forthwith, that all the finance directors and accounting officers of various councils must be terminated immediately. Must be terminated immediately, all the councils in the country. Look at the recommendation of FPAC. It says, board conclusion of FPAC. When you get to see, it says, none of the area councils have a proper financial reporting framework. There is an urgent need for a national reporting framework for all the public institutions. This says, the poor reporting format of area council is what prevents them from making adequate disclosures. You cannot disclose all your expenditures. You cannot. You don't even reconcile your information. You don't do that. So all the councils, all the finance officers and the accounting officers that are representing the president, because the president appoints, they must immediately with forthwith call back, then be terminated and answer to FPAC. And if they are found wanting of any corruption, and we let them be liable of something. I think we're having anti-corruption bill, which is still in this parliament. I only wish, even after the promulgation of the bill, it will go back onto these issues and make sure that these people are put to task and they are accounted for what they have done. And if they do anything that is wrong, and they pay the price for it. Honorable Speaker, these are issues that I have tried to look at as far as the report is concerned. And lastly, for public enterprises, some time ago in Parliament here, we passed the bill on state-owned enterprises, the state-owned enterprises bill that had looked at certain state-owned enterprises and called them commercial state-owned enterprises. Those are the ones that will be covered by that bill. And I want to question if Ministry of Finance is here, whether we have a public-private partnership bill, whether we have a law that guides that. If we don't have a law that guides that, there is a need, and there is high time we do that, because I know it is happening. If you are practicing it and you don't have a law that guides it, that could be illegal. So it's important for us to revisit our laws. If we are practicing it, the public-private partnership, we make sure that the PPP bill is presented before the parliament, and we look at it critically to ensure that we look at the agreement in that. This is quite important. And somebody also talk about public enterprises. Public enterprises cannot be independent. And he talked about executive interference. The Constitution stated that the president shall be the person to appoint the director generals and the board members of the public enterprise and any governing body that is mandated to take charge of the affairs of the public enterprises will be appointed by the president. You dance to the tune of Banta. What would you do? The president appoints them. There is need for constitutional amendments to ensure that these appointments come through parliament. We do serious scrutiny so that these appointments will not be done based on political sentiments. Sometimes they will say political interference. I say executive interference. Honorable Speaker, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, I have a long list of members who want to partake in the debate. Honorable members, I think before we close up for lunch and prayers, I think this is the last port of call for Gambians. That's why we are sent here as an oversight institution. Rather than we be lamenting what next to be done, if nothing comes out from here, it means the ball will be in our own court, nobody's court. So I think we should look at the recommendations and then try to see how do we get what we want, do we get things corrected. Always bearing in mind, honorable members, that
for people, for value addition. For you to be able to improve on something, you must do something. And where you have errors, those are excusable. If you want to innovate and during that process something goes wrong, you try again, you learn from it. But people who deliberately go to do things contrary to the wishes of the people and the regulations, I think we should come out with something than always lamenting. Everybody will talk and lament. That's the last bug. That's where it stays. So let's think about that. Honorable members, I think we will now break off for prayers and lunch. It's almost 14:41. Can we come back in the next 40 minutes? Let's say 3:30. It's 19 minutes to 3. I think 3:30 will be okay. Okay? Then.
Islamic microfinance is becoming an increasingly popular mechanism for poverty alleviation, especially for developing countries around the world. This microfinance service adheres to the principles of Islam as a form of social responsibility. Yona Islamic Microfinance is the Islamic microfinance of choice in the Gambia, trustworthy and reliable. At Yona Islamic Microfinance, we provide savings products, current accounts, financing products in conformity with Islam. In addition, Yona Islamic Microfinance also offers local and international remittances, takaful fund, management of zakat, management of awqaf, trading and investment, and building of strategic partnerships to bring financial services to the doorstep of the poor with donor projects, madrasas, youth organizations, women groups, and farmer organizations. Make a choice with Yona Islamic Microfinance today. For more information on Yona Islamic Microfinance, call 377-2151 or 9832-151 or visit Yona head office at Tipa Garage, Bakote, or visit any Yona branch located countrywide near you.
Agada.
Mbijan aganya.
Albaka.
Mbaka important.
Yo, nga transfer la sto.
Ya transfer la sto.
Ha, code nyinji.
Okay. Korsa. Nsila ID soto.
Sa soto. Sorry. Agada.
Mbijan bro.
Albaka.
Mbaka.
Bara alla service o tariaka.
Mbare.
Mo ki janna nun kunu bara tariaka.
Jannom Yona forest de bureau. Gambia tonkon na no mbali ya bere. Birim koyna fo kato.
Bari si kodo kino kato nim fo bolong blabe ko.
56 branches mola soto Gambia jam.
Ha?
Gambia kono ani Gambia bantala bankol. Nka kodo kiya bere. Kodo sifa fo falindiro fo nyaadi lafta memmen na kodi to poto nin kodi maraw. Jannom number 1 ti nyonta. Andum fana nata anoda enterprise sotale. Wolam nyindi ko domorol fana kol fana be firale le dadi man domorol din fana beteat. Gambia dawda yalo ma fa kendol sotale je.
Wo moyo diat.
Apelen da
barka. Ni ma lafta nyelen kendol e binaji.
Yalo bukani la ko la barka ba.
Yalo ndel chosano lo.
Barka.